People are saying that the farmers' protest in New Delhi is essentially because of the central laws, and they are not happy with the central laws. I think, in my understanding, the farmers' protest or the farmers' anger is essentially because it's a kind of a compound anger built over the decades that is now finding a vent in the form of the opposition to the central laws. I think we must understand that for 4 decades, at least that I know of, agriculture has been deliberately denied the rightful income. Farmers, because of the economic design that has been cast across the globe, we have seen that farmers are being pushed out of agriculture to the cities. And that system has been in operation for long. And I just want to illustrate this with a couple of studies. I remember there was a study by United Nations, UNTAD, and UNTAD study had shown that in the 20 years period, from mid 1980s to mid 2000, they had worked out that the output price or the farm gate price of agriculture commodities across the globe had remained static or frozen if you adjust for inflation. So let's say around 1985 to 2005, if the output price of agriculture had remained static for all these years, it should tell us how precarious the farmer's livelihood must have been in those days. Then comes an OECD study along with ICRIER in New Delhi, which tells us that between 2000 and 2016-17, 16 years, the Indian farmers lost 45 lakh crore. And every year they were losing something around 2.64 lakh crore. And this is, it's of course a huge loss that agriculture was undergoing. But I think the more important part is that this study is, because it was limited to a handful of crops, the loss would have been huge in magnitude, still bigger than 45 lakh crore if they had looked at the entire spectrum of agriculture. So this also gives you an idea as to what is happening to Indian agriculture all these decades. And then comes an economic survey 2016, which I've often quoted. The economic survey 2016 tells us that the average farm income in 17 states of India, which means half the country, is 20,000 rupees a year, which means less than 1,700 rupees a month. I can't even rear a cow in 1,700 rupees a month. And I wonder how these farming families have been surviving on less than 1,700 rupees a month. This was very close in 2016. That's what the economic survey reported, quoting an NSSO study. Now, this entire thing would give us a picture that, over the decades, agriculture has been at the receiving end. And agriculture, it's very clear that the farmers have been denied the rightful income. So there was an effort. And I think when the laws came in, the idea was that, we have to bring about a change in agriculture. Yes, there is no denying there is a need for a change. There's a need for reform in agriculture. After all, agriculture cannot continue in the same kind of a condition that had existed for the last, as I said, 4 or 5 decades. But, the way the agriculture laws were pushed, the way the agriculture laws were framed, I think raises lots of questions, and you have all been reading about in the newspapers and watching the debates on the television and so on. Now, I think it is very, very interesting to see that if you look at what the model or the model that we have borrowed, and I have often said this, that this model that we have borrowed in the form of agriculture reforms, market reforms in agriculture, actually comes from America and Europe. Is the reform working very well in America and Europe? I think, I'm sure many of my colleagues must have deciphered the 3 laws, but 3 laws basically are on the same pattern or same lines. The point I'm trying to make is that these laws, in my understanding, actually failed farmers in America and Europe. And we have borrowed the same model to India. I think there was a need for a deliberation. There was a need for a debate to understand why these reforms did not work in farmers' favor in all those countries that we are very proudly saying that this will work in India. Now, 2 or 3 things I want to bring it here. For at least 6, 7 decades in America, these market reforms have been operative. And, when Richard Nixon was the president of America, this is the early 1970s, his agriculture secretary had made that infamous statement saying, get big or get out. And this is what has happened in America. Small farmers went out, and we know that today only 1.5% of the population remains in agriculture in America. I remember 13 years or 14 years back is a report in the New York Times, which has still remained very, I would say, very tragic memory that I carry in my brain today. In my mind today is a story in the New York Times which said one dairy farmer, and I'm talking about 13, 14 years back, committed suicide in America, nothing unusual. But what he did was he first shot each of his 51 cows, and then he shot himself. Now, this story tells you that the agrarian crisis in America was building up for last several decades, and we of course didn't see it coming. And then let us say another study has shown us today that the rate of suicide in rural America is 45% higher than urban America. America is so much in distress, faced with so much of agriculture distress, that in the 2018 Farm Bill, they have made a provision of $50 million to address the issue of farm stress. And they have also set up a helpline to see that those who are committing suicide at least can get some consolation or some counseling. This tells you how serious the crisis there is. And over the period, what we have seen in America is that in the last 25 years, the Environment Working Group in America has shown us that America pumped in $425 billion of subsidies in agriculture. And ironically, in 2020, the bankruptcy the American farmers are saddled with is also $425 billion. Now, this is happening in a country which is providing every 5 years a farm bill which provides billions of dollars for agriculture support. So the production that level that we see in America, the kind of efficiency and competitiveness that we talk about in America actually is driven by agriculture subsidies. There's a study by UNTAD India that in 2007, the study was done. It said, if you withdraw the green box subsidies, the OECD provide, the rich countries provide to the agriculture in the WTO, you must have heard about the huge subsidies that rich countries provide, which is always a bone of contention whenever a WTO ministerial conference is held. If you withdraw those green box subsidies, agriculture exports from America, Canada, and European Union would fall by 40%, which means even the agriculture exports, the competitiveness that we talk about is built on huge agriculture subsidies. And that is why the American agriculture or the European agriculture looks to be competitive. When we talk of how our farmers are not that efficient as compared to the American farms. So we have to bring in efficiency and so on and so forth. Well, 80% of the global subsidies in agriculture, which according to the OECD in 2018 was $246 billion, actually has been provided to the corporates, and only 20% subsidies go to the small farmers. And small farmers are quitting agriculture, whether in America or in Europe. In fact, just if you look at the dairy sector, I think one of the examples that I would like to illustrate is that about 50 years back, America had about 6.5 lakh dairy farms, and all very sophisticated, technology rich, and also with high yielding cows and so on. And today, what is left is about 34,000 licensed dairy farms in America. And farmers have gone out, and yet the milk production has not come down. In fact, the milk production is going up because the corporates have come in. Now we have mega dairies, and America is now trying to find an export opportunity for that kind of a surplus they have created. But why did the farmer go out was that the prices began to crash and prices began to be on the decline. So what we call as market efficiency, I think, was something that hit farmers. Recently I have been inundated by a lot of, these countries, farmers in these countries. And one farmer wrote to me that what is happening in India, we'd like to understand, because the Indian farmers seem to be fighting for a assured minimum price for their crops. And that is what we all feel is the way forward. So his point was that, when you live in debt all through your life, it is like living in hell. And I remember when Chaudhry Charan Singh also made a statement that, a farmer in India is born in debt and dies in debt. I think that can tell us very clearly that agriculture was in a serious and a terrible kind of agrarian distress that prevailed in agriculture, and there was a need for a way out. So that is one thing which I'd like to bring before the audience. And the second part is that, yes, the agriculture needs to, as I said, needs a change. and a remarkable change we need, because for a sector which employs 50% of roughly 50% of the country's population, which means roughly 60 crore people, I think the way forward, as the Prime Minister has often been saying, is sabka saath, sabka vikas. And having accepted that and acknowledging that this is the way forward for the country, I think the challenge before the country is to ensure how do we bring in an assured kind of income to the farming community. Now, the other point I want to bring is Shanta Kumar Committee, as you have all known by now, had said that only 6% farmers get minimum support price. 94% farmers in any case were dependent on markets. If markets were so efficient, I see no reason why agrarian distress should have been so huge and profound in India. We also know that in 2006, there was an excitement all around, and I remember that period when it was said that Bihar will be the harbinger of a new, market-driven agriculture in India. There was so much of excitement. In fact, Bihar had even gone a step ahead than what the government has done now. They had thrown away the APMC Act, and the argument was that this will bring in, private investments and then private markets, and there will be price discovery. 14 years have passed, and this year alone, 50 lakh tons of paddy has come from Bihar and Uttar Pradesh to be sold in Punjab. Because in Bihar, what the farmers are getting is 800 to about 1200 rupees per quintal as the paddy price, whereas in Punjab you get 1888 rupees per quintal as the paddy price, which was the minimum support price. So I think what Bihar is an example before us, and I think that we are learning for us. Market reforms have failed in Bihar, market reforms have failed in America and Europe and in the rich countries. And then why are we trying to copy and paste the same model to India? I think that's a question we need to ask ourselves. And as younger scientists and young students, you also need to really look out of the box as to what could be the solution. Do we always have to cut and paste? Why, as a country, we don't understand what is good for us, but what is good lying in our backyard, or what is our strength? And then we try to find the answers for our problems in America and in Europe. I think that has been a travesty of the kind of research that we have been doing, or economic planning that we have been doing. What the country needs is a kind of a model or a kind of a design which is suitable to our own condition, which is able to help our farmers get out of the kind of a crisis that they have been existing. It has been existing for all these decades. I think the laws, you know it very well, that in America, it is one country, one market. In fact, I would say it is not only one country, it's a one world, one market. In America, there is no APMC. In America, there is no MSP. There are intervention prices at different stages. But in America, the biggest retail companies like Walmart's do not have a stock limit. In America, there is contract farming. In America, there is commodity trading. We know the biggest commodity exchange is in Chicago. And despite that, a recent report by the National Farm Bureau Federation has said that 91% farmers are under debt. And 87% farmers know that they will be quitting agriculture in a matter of time. So I think it becomes very clear. And if I go back and quote a chief economist of the US Department of Agriculture, he had said that since 1960s, the farm incomes in America, if you adjust for inflation, have been on a steep decline. So all that point I'm trying to make is this is not the design for us. I think we need to create our own design. Now let's look at what could be that design. You know the three laws. Many of my colleagues will be deciphering that and decoding that. But I think more important is to understand, take the bigger picture. You know, we had a system of MSP being introduced in India when the Green Revolution came in. That system has worked remarkably well in this country, although it was confined to only, by and large, the northwestern region of the country, Punjab and Haryana. You know, and I remember that economists have been telling us that, APMC markets are coming in the way, they are monopolistic. And then, of course, they've always said that minimum support price is the factor which is not allowing farmers to get price discovery. You know, all these things have been said by who I call as lazy economists. You know, the economists who don't want to look beyond the market economics, just copy and paste and say this is a kind of a reform for India. I think let's look into our stance. You know, MSP was a system, as we said, it was confined to only 6%. Why couldn't we expand that system to cover the entire country? Why couldn't we see that, the APMC mandis in India, which were only 7,000, roughly 7,000 in number, why, if this country requires a mandi in 5 kilometer radius, we needed 42,000 mandis. That's a public sector investment that should have been made over these years. These two factors, there are problems in the APMC mandis, nobody's denying it. And there's a need for structural reforms in the APMCs, and that everyone is calling for a long period. But instead of bringing those reforms, we are throwing away the APMC or trying to see that they become redundant over the years by the kind of policy changes that are now being ushered in. I think that is not the way forward. What we need is a network of huge mandis across the country. We need to expand the provision of delivery of MSP in the country. Then the argument comes is, where will the money come from? Did you ever hear when the Seventh Pay Commission that where will the money come from? When the Seventh Pay Commission, the Minister for Finance had said that, it will cost us 1,02,000 crores every year, an additional burden. And when a Credit Suisse report subsequently came out and it said that when it is implemented across the country, the Seventh Pay Commission, by the states and by the PSUs, it will cost an additional 4.8 lakh crore every year. Did you ever hear economists saying, what about the fiscal deficit? Did they ever question where will the money come from? But if we were to make a provision of 4 lakh crore for marketing agriculture produce in India, there will be halla gulla hangama in this country. Yes, the professor, that we don't need to provide this money. We don't need to waste this money. Let the markets take care of, and so on and so forth. I think what the country needs at this particular juncture is to do a rethinking, to see that how we can revitalize agriculture, how we can how we can bring back the pride that used to exist in agriculture. And let us understand very clear that, for Atmanirbhar Bharat, as well as for Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, providing more money in the hands of farmer is the way forward. And let us not be ashamed of it. And I think it is our duty, moral duty, to stand with the farmers, understand their difficulties, and to build up that kind of a narrative or the argument that yes, farmers are also part of our society and they also need an equal kind of a support, to see that they come at par with what Swaminathan Commission had said, that they need to be at par with the civil servants. And that is one thing which is very important. Why do we believe that farmer has to be kept pauperized all through his life? I think it's a responsibility for all of us, and for younger scientists. I expect this seminar to open up their vistas and to open up their thinking, and to see how we can bring in a kind of a change that agriculture needs. Thank you very much, Professor Joshi.
Thank you, Dr. Devendra Sharma. I think give a big hand to Dr. Sharma for excellent presentation and raising several issues: low incomes of the farmers, stabilizing the prices, and then borrowing the models from other Western parts of the world. So very interesting points you have raised, and also tried to decipher the farm laws which have been introduced recently. Thank you very much. Excellent presentation. And now we have some question answer session, and there are 2-3 questions. I have received 2 questions so far. Should I read these questions? Gunjan?
Yes, sir. You can pick the question. Yes, sir. You can pick the question and then allot to the speaker.
Only 2 questions. 2 questions are there.
So one is, sorry, sir, one is there in the chat box also.
Chat box also there is a question. Okay, yes, first I will read the question from here, which is in question answer. Dr. Praveen Kumar, he has written, it's a long question. I don't know question or the suggestion, I don't know. It is written, although repealing of 3 agriculture laws is a complex problem to solve the logjam of farmers and government, I would request you to make us understand that these laws are really beneficial to farmers in reality, so that we can also make our brother farmers, colleagues understand. This is one question, Dr. Sharma. The second question, the name is not there, anonymous attendee is mentioned. Did not China also bring similar reforms in the 1970s? Is it right to say the model is borrowed from US or Europe? And then again, quickly, a question came from Pawan Singh. Dr. Sharma, excellent presentation. What is the harm in having another option of private players for agriculture marketing? These are the three questions from question answers box. And then there is one in chat box, fourth question. Dr. Sharma, kindly look at the heavy reliance on MSP by few states, resulting in monocropping and groundwater over exploitation. What is the solution? And there are a few compliments to you, wonderful presentations. So these are the four questions, and remaining are giving good compliments to you for your excellent presentation. So one is, why do we repeal, although you have not mentioned in your talk about repealing of the law, but there is a question that can you help us to how these can benefit and how we can convince our farmers? This is one. Second, about the China. China has also done, and how you are mentioning a US and EU borrowed model. And then about what is harm in bringing private sector in agriculture. So these are the points. I think you floor is over to you for responding these questions.
Thank you. I think one question that always crops up is that China has opened up its agriculture some years back, and we have to learn from China's experience. Well, let's be very clear. China today in the globe, and in 2016 China had provided $212 billion in agriculture, and that was a time when they needed to, and from that particular period even now, they need to jack up their production to meet their own domestic demand. And with their own production getting low, they are focusing on trying to make all efforts to see that their farmers can produce more, which means they also realize that there's a need to give higher income to their farmers. And some studies have shown, in fact, America has taken China to the dispute panel in WTO, and in that dispute panel, what they have said is that China is providing, as I said earlier, $212 billion of agriculture subsidies, and roughly about 38% of the farm income by way of wheat price and 32% of farm income by way of rice price actually comes from agriculture subsidies. So it tells us that the markets were not able to give farmers the rightful income, and so they had to supplement it by agriculture subsidies. That's the point I'm trying to make. Whether it is America, Europe, or even including China now, we have clear examples that the markets fail to provide farmers with an income, why think about higher income, but even a rightful income. And so I think the governments have stepped in to provide more subsidy support, provide more money in the hands of farmers. So my submission here is that why are we borrowing that model which failed to provide farmers with higher income? That's the question. And why are we jittery when the farmers demand a minimum assured price for their crops? Because after all, you and me also depend on an income package every month, and we don't question that why should our salaries not be linked with markets if markets were so efficient. That is one. Having said that, what is good in these central laws, I think I have made it very clear that if the way the central laws were pushed without any discussion, without discussing with the stakeholders, which is the farmers, the way they were pushed in a lockdown condition, the way it was pushed in through the parliament, you all know that the country has seen it. And yet I find strange that people stand up and say these laws are wonderful. We didn't even discuss them. We didn't even debate them. How can these laws be then? You just said, some people would say that these are wonderful laws for the benefit of India. I think the farmers, I would agree with them that there's a need to repeal these laws and bring in a new set of laws after a wide consultation. And that is where the scientists view, where the technologists view, where the views of the farmers, where the views of the other communities in the rural areas, and so on, and academia, and also the policymakers. I think this is a time when we should look into that and then come out with our own, a set of laws which we don't have to borrow from the West. As somebody mentioned that it is not only borrowed from America and Europe, it is also in the different countries. In fact, I have been asked this question in many of the interviews that I gave. They have asked me this question: please tell us what you are suggesting, which country has succeeded with that. I said, why are we ashamed of our own stance? Why do we always have to follow from country A or country B or country C? Look at your own stance. You gave us a system of minimum support price. You gave us a system of regulated markets. Why can't we expand that? As far as the private sector role is concerned, yes, it is very important. I'm not against the private sector, but the private sector also has to follow the same regulation which has to exist, which are existing for the public sector. sector? That is the question, I think, which is important. Now, let us say in Punjab, there are the APMC mandis. There is a 6% tax when you make a purchase. The trader has to pay 6% tax. If you have to have a level playing field, then the laws allow outside the APMC mandis, anyone can buy without paying any tax. You need to have a PAN card, and that's all. Now, this is not level playing field. Private sector is welcome, and I think private sector should also be in the same kind of face the same kind of a condition that the public sector has, and I think anybody will welcome, and that will be the real competition. Now, if we have a APMC mandi in Punjab, and if we have a private mandi coming up in Maharashtra, and with the same kind of norms and regulations to be followed, I think that is the true competition that the country is looking forward to. If we could only have 7,000 mandis in all these years, and we need 42,000 mandis, I don't know why the private sector did not step in to come up with mandis. The other question, I think, is that, the minimum support price. I find it's very interesting. Everybody is saying, the corporates are saying, in fact, on one of the shows, sir, I was asked this question, Mr. Joshi, that the markets are so excited about the new laws. Why are the farmers on the streets? I said, you have answered the question yourself. Because the laws are made for the markets are excited. And the farmers feel that the laws are not made for them, would be detrimental to them. That is why they are on the streets. So I think if we are creating laws to benefit only the markets, I think we are not doing a great service to the country's future. I think what we need is actually laws which can help the markets, which can help the farmers to come out of the crisis they are in. Now, the last point I would like to make, sir, is if we look at this argument that markets will provide a better price, I find economists telling us that markets will provide a better price. The farmers are being misled that markets would be detrimental to them. I find the policymakers telling us that markets will provide a better price. I find the media telling us that markets will provide a better price. Then please tell me, if everybody is trying to give us a higher price or give the farmers a higher price to what? That's the question. The benchmark we have is minimum support price. We have 23 crops for which the MSP is announced every year. Now, treat that as benchmark. If companies are going to provide a higher price, beyond that or higher than the benchmark or the minimum support price, then what is wrong in having a kind of a legal instrument which says that nothing should be traded in the country below the minimum support price? What is wrong in that? What is wrong in that? Why can't you assure farmers that you will at least get the minimum support price? The real freedom for farmer will be when he can sell anywhere to anyone, and then he knows that at least he will get the minimum support price. That is the real freedom that everyone is looking forward to.
One more question, Dr. Sharma, by Anita. She's asking, can we say that providing more subsidies and assured MSP for the farmers is the solution? Yes, you are.
Well, I did not say subsidies. All I said was we must ensure farmers with a minimum income. That's the point I made. And I think every corporate which says that they're going to provide farmers with a higher income should actually be standing with farmers and saying, yes, we need to make minimum support price a legal instrument so that there's no trading takes place or the farmer is not forced to go for distress sale below that price. That is one thing. This other part is subsidies. When I say subsidy, I think it also comes in the way of the investments that we make in agriculture. Look at the study by the Reserve Bank of India. It tells us that between 2011-12 to 2017-18, the public sector investment we made in agriculture was 0.4% of the GDP. For a population which is 50% of the country, you make an investment of 0.4% of the GDP, and then you expect a miracle to happen in agriculture. How can that happen? If we had made the kind of investment that we make for corporates, I can tell you the country would have had by now 2 engines of growth, agriculture as well as the industry. But we have focused only on the industry. And I remember one of the former governors of the Reserve Bank of India had said that the biggest reform would be when we are able to push farmers out of agriculture. That's what he said. And, bring them into the urban areas because urban areas need cheap labor. If this is the kind of economic design, cheap labor means dihadi mazdoor. If that is what you are trying to do, moving people out of agriculture to make them dihadi mazdoor in the city, I think that's not the economic design the country needs. And we have seen in the lockdown, 2 days of lockdown, 8 crore people walked back intrastate and interstate, which shows that particular model that you have to push people out of agriculture into the urban areas was an economic design that we have blindly followed. I think we need to reverse that economic design now. And that is where a role of agriculture becomes very important. I think that is where we need to put our eggs in that agriculture basket so that agriculture becomes profitable and economically viable.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. We would like to hear more, but time is binding all of us. There are a few more questions, but we are limited of the time. But excellent to hear you and your views. Thank you so much. I will request all of you to give a big hand to Dr. Sharma for outstanding presentation. We were informed, several issues which I think the organizers are looking forward. Now we'll move to next presentation. Next presentation is by Dr. Raka Saxena. Raka is a principal scientist at the National Institute of Agriculture Economics and Policy Research, and usually known as NCAP in our tongue, NIAP for next generation. At present, she is engaged in research on agrarian issues, income and livelihood security for farmers. She's also handling a very large network project on market intelligence, and that is running across 13 states of India. This is a very, very important project in the current situation, when you need for forecasting and projections, and the trends what are going on in markets, especially the prices of agricultural commodities. Dr. Raka has several publications. He has published in good international journals. He has published books, policy papers, working papers. There are several things to her credit. She was also worked as consultant for OE, CD, Ministry of Commerce, and ICRIER. And she is, holding PhD in agriculture economics, and she also has the RT Doshi Award to her credit. She was with Pantnagar University with the in agri business college. She was with NDRI, no, as a senior scientist, doing her did her excellent work. And I, above all, she is a very good colleague of mine. I got a wonderful opportunity to closely work with Dr. Raka for about 2 years. Very outstanding researchers in agriculture, marketing, and policy related issues. Dr. Raka, is for you. Over to you. 20 minutes. I will just do like this, and then you can
Sure, sir. Sure.
conclude.
Uh, Thank you so much, sir, for your very nice introduction. I mean, so many things you said about me. It is nice to be at this platform under your dynamic leadership, and I congratulate you for this new opportunity. You have done a wonderful job in many agricultural reforms, and we look forward to you that these reforms will continue in favor of farmers' welfare, and we will realize the long awaited impact from these reforms. And I thank NDRI for giving me this opportunity. So let me begin my presentation on reporting new formulas. This is a very important and emerging topic, and the previous esteemed speaker has highlighted a number of issues on the new formulas which have been initiated in the country. I would basically highlight the supporting evidence and accentuating facts which are actually required for the genesis of these reforms and how the implementation hiccups can be addressed over a period of time so that these formulas are implemented in more effective and impactful manner. So these, I would basically focus on the outcomes of two new farm laws, which are on Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce Act and Farmers Empowerment and Protection Agreement on Price Assurance and Farm Services Act. We know that why these reforms were required. The previous speaker has highlighted a number of issues why these farm laws were actually long required in the agricultural sector for handling number of issues related to agrarian distress. And now Government of India is focusing on doubling of farmers' income. And yesterday also Professor Rameshan highlighted that, and we have been continuously witnessing that price is actually a very critical factor in enhancing the farmers' income, and its contribution is extremely critical in enhancing the income of farmers. We have seen for long, our researchers indicate that we have huge price spread and we have less farmers' share in consumer rupee. And there has been a growing disparity between agriculture and non-agricultural incomes over a period of time, which actually creates the need for market reforms in agriculture. And we have been suffering from the problem of plenty in number of commodities, and we have demand supply gaps. We have been importing hugely, largely a number of commodities, particularly vegetable oils, and then we have problem of surpluses in number of other commodities, which need to be effectively channelized to the foreign destinations for realizing the premium price. And we need to bring a lot of capital and modern capital and investment into agriculture for bringing infrastructure, so that our post-harvest losses and our supply chains, our value chains could be made more efficient. And we actually need to go for trade promotion and trade facilitation over a period of time to realize better gains for the farmers. Now, we already know that what is the main objective of these farm laws. And the first law, which is on Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce Act, it basically provides the freedom to sell and buy farm produce at any place in the country, whether it is APMC or any other place outside APMC. So we are not going to the APMCs will not be vanished over a period of time. Rather, the government is providing alternative to farmers so that they can sell anywhere in the market. And this act will facilitate the creation of required farm in diversification and would promote agri-entrepreneurship in agriculture. Now, there are a number of facts. Why did we require these reforms, and what was actually happening? Now, if we decode the trade patterns, we find that much of the trade happens outside APMC in most of the commodities. If you look at agency-wise share for major kharif crops, this is on the basis of situation assessment survey, we can see local private trader is a dominant agency in most of the commodities in India. And we can see the APMC is more than 50% sale is happening only in case of few crops like rapeseed and breadcrumb. Rather, in most of the other commodities, much of the trade is happening outside APMC. Rather, bulk of the trade is happening outside APMC in most of the commodities. If we look at the case of paddy, which is the most important crop of our country, and here also we can see the local private trader is highly dominant, and close to 70%, 80% sale is happening through local private trader. In Andhra Pradesh, we can see more than 80% sale is happening through local private trader. In West Bengal, which is a major rice producing state, local private trader plays a very important role, and bulk of the trade is happening through this particular agency. So the point is that, when bulk of the trade is happening outside Mandi, why don't we legalize such kind of transactions? So this is actually very important, that we need to legalize such transaction when bulk of the trade is happening outside APMC. So we need to make our APMC more efficient, and also along with that, we need to provide more lucrative channels to the farmers for facilitating their trade. We did some kind of meta-analysis for number of commodities, high-value crops, and other crops, where we reviewed number of studies, and we reviewed the marketing channels followed for number of commodities, and then analyzed what is the market, what is the farmer's share in consumer rupee for a given commodity in a given state for a particular marketing channel. So the below figures indicate the year, commodity, channel, and state where that particular commodity is being sold through that. We can see here for most of the horticulture commodities, for example, here we can say apple, banana, pineapple, farmers' share particularly remains low for most of the commodities. It remains around close to around 40 to 60% in most of the horticulture commodities. The situation is little better in case of non-high value commodities. In case of cereals, hybrid maize, the share of farmers was particularly high in those commodities where the perishability component was less. Now, if we look at the recent data for trading of rice and wheat, we can see here that majority of rice trade happened at a price which was more than MSP for a given year. And some proportion of wheat in some states, it was sold below MSP in those states. We can state like, for example, in case of Punjab, none of the month the trade happened below MSP. In all the months, the trade happened. The data was not available for majority of the months in this particular year, but wherever the data was available, the trade happened at a price which was more than MSP. In majority of the states, the trade happened at a price which was more than MSP. But in case of wheat, we can see there are some states where, for example, in case of Uttar Pradesh, in some of the month in 2017-18, in 9 months, the wheat trade happened at a price which was less than MSP. And but recently the situation is improved in case of Uttar Pradesh. In 2019-20, in most of the months, I mean, the data was not available for a certain period, but the trade happened at a price which was more than MSP. So in case of paddy rice, most of the farmers, they realized the price which was more than MSP, except but for wheat, where the trade happened at a price which was lower than MSP also. So we can say that the MSP benefits have been realized to a set of certain crops, particularly rice and wheat, in a few states. But we can see in case of other commodities, the MSP benefit is extremely limited. The geographical and other commodities penetration in case of MSP, it remains extremely limited. If we look at the recent data, this is for December 2020, we can see in two major crops, groundnut and pigeon pea. These are the market prices, average market price in different markets of the country. This is pan-India data for close to more than 200 markets, where we can see this is MSP. This yellow line is MSP. In majority of the markets, the trade happened at a price which was lower than MSP. In case of pigeon pea, also very few markets reported the sale at a price which was more than MSP. So we can say that the reports have earlier also established that the MSP benefits, they have been limited to certain crops, certain regions, and the penetration of geographical and other commodities penetration, it is extremely limited. So we need to make our farmers realize these benefits through the market reforms which have been launched. And if you look at the awareness and participation of farmers in MSP scheme of Government of India, we can look at this is again on the basis of situation assessment survey of farmers. We can see that the awareness level of farmers, these gray bars indicate that for a particular farmer, how many farmers they were aware about MSP, how many farmers they were aware about the procurement agency, and how many farmers actually participated in the sale to that particular procurement agency. In many cases, this number remains very low. But whenever the farmers who have sold through the particular procurement agency, they were able to realize the MSP. These dot indicates the price they have realized. And we have compared these prices with the MSP which was prevailing for that particular year. In majority of the cases, these prices were higher than the MSP which prevailed for that particular crop, except for horticulture where we don't have the MSP. So the awareness and participation of farmers in MSP scheme still remains low across commodities and across regions. And if you look at the procurement in the states like Punjab and Haryana, we find that only a few states are benefited in terms of procurement, government procurement. Close to more than 50 million tons of paddy was procured, rice was procured in 2019-20. And of course, the states like Telangana, they have come forward. I mean, their procurement from those states, non-traditional states, is increasing over a period of time. But Punjab and Haryana still occupy majority of the share in rice and wheat procurement. And if we can see that these lines indicate what is the proportion of total procurement of rice and wheat which is procured from these two states, Punjab and Haryana. We can see that majority of the wheat is procured from only two states. More than 60% of the wheat is procured from Punjab and Haryana, and close to 50% of the paddy rice is procured from Punjab and Haryana. And aggregate total rice and wheat from two states, it stands at around 30% of the total procurement from entire country. And if you look at the second act, which basically focuses on the contract farming in the country, we know that the contract farming, it is not a new model. Number of studies, Dr. Joshi also has conducted a number of studies on contract farming. We know that contract farming is practiced in India at a limited scale in specific cases for a longer period of time. And the main objective is to provide an assured price to the farmers. And through it can be through an agreement between the farmers and the sponsor, for a given commodity and on agreed terms and conditions. We have number of successful cases in India, and which indicate that the welfare impacts of contract farming have been very large. And in this act, the state governments have been given the powers to make rules for carrying out the provisions of the act. I'm not going into all those administrative things. Rather, I would highlight number of facts pertaining to this also. We can see there have been number of successful models on contract farming which have been practiced in India. There are a number of companies like Tata Chemicals. They did it for grapes in Maharashtra, and this was for basically for export purpose. And they provided the easy availability of crop loan to the farmer, and which is very important case. I would highlight this point later on. We have seen number of successful cases in case of poultry, which has highlighted that the farmers were able to actually realize the premium price, and their incomes were enhanced over a period of time. A number of other models which provided farm inputs to the farmer. They showed the quality of the product, and the products were channelized through different means. But there have been a number of implementation constraints in these contracts. The contracts sometimes have been biased. We need formalization of contracts. There is, we have number of, close to 87% of smallholders in the country. We need to have focus on those smallholders so that their interests are not hampered. We need proper profit sharing mechanisms and also bargaining for power for our smallholders in the country. We have a number of other successful cases where we had a lot of initiatives for number of crops, high value crops in different states, Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, Maharashtra, all those cases have been there. Infrastructure remains a very big challenge, and particularly in poor income states, the situation is still better in case of performing states like we have Haryana, Punjab. Market situation, of course, it's not much poorer in even poor income states, but in terms of processing, electricity and all, we can see that the poor income states are at a receiving end in terms of infrastructure. We talk about, now we focus on horticulture. We have been saying that, we need to focus on farm diversification, we need to focus on horticulture, high value crops, and for that particular sector, we need a specific kind of infrastructure. If you look at cold chain infrastructure, we find a number of studies have been conducted. This study was conducted by NCCD, and they said the number of cold storages have been created and they have a defined capacity. But still, we have a lot of gap in terms of this infrastructure which is required for particular high value crops. And we have like integrated pack houses, reefer vans, cold storages, ripening units, and we have a lot of gaps in these shortfalls. So we need to actually prioritize our investment requirement depending upon the capacity, depending upon the commodity. So we need to do all this. And also we know that we have huge post-harvest losses in number of commodities. The esteemed speaker, he highlighted in his speech previously that we need to focus on, we have high value commodities, and there we can see foods, vegetables, livestock. They are these are the high growth sectors in Indian economy, and these will be responsible for increasing the income of farmers too. But we can see we have huge losses in terms of post-harvest losses in these commodities. And we need proper logistics, we need efficient supply chains, we need infrastructure for all those commodities. And then for that, we need private participation, we need post-harvest, we need to manage these losses. And the government is also focusing on MSME. They're also focusing on primary processing. They're also focusing on household level processing so that the value is added in the product at the initial level of handling, so that the losses can be handled, so that the value can be added and the product can be sold at a premium price. If we look at the growth in value added from manufacturing and household sector, we can see there has been a negative growth in terms of production, processing, and preservation of this particular category, which focuses on meat, fish, fruits, vegetables, oils, and fats. And this has evidenced negative growth in value added in manufacturing. But we find that corporate sector has grown at a positive growth. But the small scale, the household level processing will actually realize that the direct gains to the farmers. But the farmers will gain from corporate processing also, but the direct gains will be realized from household level processing. We have some innovative models, marketing models in the country, which have actually yielded positive benefits for the farmers. We need to focus, we need to replicate success stories which are there for farmers for benefits. We have seen that government focuses on export promotion and enhancement, and we need to, we are focusing on doubling agricultural exports from $30 billion to $60 billion. And actually, we are trying to diversify our export basket. We are focusing more on high value products, different markets, new destinations, new products. So we are focusing on all those things, and we are also focusing on indigenous organic products, and so that our share in what agricultural exports is enhanced, and farmers can take advantage of that. So these are the basic components of agricultural export policy, which we can harness through the new market reforms. We need infrastructure and logistics. We need proper efficient supply chains, and then we need to, our Honorable Prime Minister has been continuously focusing on brand India kind of mission, vocal for local. So we are focusing on Atmanirbhar Bharat. So we need to require a lot of investment, logistics support, and all those things so that our exports are enhanced over a period of time. We have huge export potential in number of commodities. This we have taken from International Trade Center's analysis on export potential. In case of rice, we have only harnessed 53% of our export potential. We have been a major player, rather one of the largest players in shrimp and prawns in the global export. There we have harnessed only 53% of our export potential. So they have followed a certain methodology which takes into consideration the supply conditions, the demand conditions, and also the easiness to trade kind of governance reforms in trade. So this is the analysis based on number of parameters. And particularly when we look at the horticulture sector, we find that there are a number of vegetables like onions. We have been a major player in case of onion. We have been exporting around 10% of total onion production to those number of destinations. We have harnessed only 44% of onion export potential, and we have harnessed only 42% of potatoes export potential, and we are very low. And particularly in case of fruits have huge export potential. Grapes, there we have harnessed only 36% of our export potential. Bananas only 14%, and there we have been a traditional exporter, a regular exporter in those commodities. So we need to harness on these untapped export potential which we have in our country. So as highlighted in the previous session, that China also slowly, gradually opened up the markets for private participation. And evidences, we reviewed a number of papers that these indicate that the impact of market reforms were actually yielding for the farmers in terms of improved allocative efficiency, and they brought kind of a structural change, and they reduced the price of farm inputs, improved the selling prices, and also they have been integrating the China's economy to the global markets. So what are the major takeaways? And so we all of us are agreeing to the fact that these reforms, actually the market reforms, are critical for farmers' prosperity and transformation of rural economy in the country. And we are focusing on them given objective that we need to provide. Why, if bulk of the trade is still happening outside the APMC, we need to provide more lucrative channels to the market, to the farmers for selling their produce. We need to ensure competition between the APMCs and other channels, and this will improve entire ecosystem for agriculture, for agricultural marketing. And we need to we have been witnessing that there has been a lot of price uncertainty, particularly in high value commodities. We have special mission on tomato, potato, and onion, and also on other horticultural commodities. So the farmers are facing a lot of price uncertainty, price risk, and we need to provide them some kind of guaranteed price. And then there we could have number of arrangements for reducing that kind of price uncertainty, price volatility, and we need to ensure the farm diversification. So that, and we need to provide that kind of guarantee to the farmer. And then we need to effectively link our local markets to the global markets, and that kind of integration needs to be improved over a period of time to improve logistics and other support. And then there are a number of issues which need to be handled when we talk about implementation hiccups and other things. We know that the studies have witnessed that there is strong linkage between trader and farmer in terms of informal value chain finance. Number of studies have indicated that the farmers depend a lot on the traders, the value supply chain participants. So we need to bring some kind of customized financial products in terms of some kind of microfinance products or some kind of other customized products, which can ensure the farmer of the required investment which is required in agriculture. It can meet those requirements. And then we need to go for, because when we talk about some kind of infrastructures, we need the other sectors, they may go for some kind of scattered kind of infrastructure or some kind of scattered investment. So we may go for infrastructure mapping for entire country as a whole, and then we can go for infrastructure mapping and prioritization for different states, because different states, Odisha would be requiring different kind of infrastructure for different commodities. On the other hand, Karnataka would be requiring different kind of infrastructure for the agroclimatic conditions and kind of cropping pattern they are following. So we might go for infrastructure mapping and prioritization for states and commodities. That would basically guide the public sector as well as private sector in investing in our supply chains and making them more efficient and effective over a period of time. So this is from my side. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Rata. Thank you so much for excellent presentation. And this is all evidence-based. You have shown lots of studies showing that how markets are playing important role. And given your narratives on these two laws specifically, based on your empirical analysis, I'm so happy to see the kind of analysis you have made. Very good, thank you, and I really compliment for your excellent presentation. You have, I don't think many questions, one or two questions. One is by Dr. JP Mishra. He is asking, where is that? JP Mishra ji kahan hai? Yeah, chat box. Yeah, this is here now. Farmer condition is it is written that please tell us how many farmers organizations are consulted before the implementation of this law. I think you have not dealt with this, so you can skip this this question. Sarma Mishra sir, I think this Dr. Raka has not covered this issue, so it does not attend to us. Then there's a, excuse me, ma'am, can we get the record clips? So Gunjan,
Yes, sir, that I have shared, sir.
You can share the recorded. Then there is Mishra ji again asked, farmers' condition is pitiable in all over India, except some farmers in Haryana and Punjab. What is the reason? So I don't think that these questions pertain to your presentation. And then there is, I think, yeah. No,
sorry, sir. Same question and answer box. There are some questions in Q&A box.
Question answer box. Okay. Yeah, right. Okay. So, so these are, one is on Essential Commodity Act, which again Dr. Raka has not covered. I have one PC, Mr. PC has written that I have visited to some of the farmers. Their concern is also about the third law, which is on, especially on amendment on Essential Commodity Act. Dr. Raka has not, he has covered only two laws. He feels that there are fear from the farmer side that commercial companies or rich farmers will make their own silos storage and will govern the market forces. Somehow it seems a right concern, and at the field level, farmers are in the dilemma, state of mind and information. So I don't think that she has covered this particular one. Anil Dixit, Dr. Anil Dixit, is any provision in law to deal with such situations? I don't think she has covered this one. And then agree, someone from Deep 2009. A nice presentation, ma'am. You only telling about successful stories of big companies with farmers, but what about unsuccessful stories? Like Lay's, like companies which did not buy potatoes from farmers in Punjab. And then is it possible to boost export of agricultural commodities without adversely affecting the domestic market prices? Dr. Jain sahab, namaskar. He is asking question from Dr. Raka Saxena about wonderful presentation. How about MSMEs playing critical role in improving the farmer's lot? Dr. Raka, you have a few questions, more are on which you have not dealt. One is basically on Essential Commodity Act amendment. I think you are not covering that. You can skip this one. But second is on is the successful models of private companies which are procuring from the farmers, and and then the second one is basically how the farmers can be benefited with these reforms. Yeah. Over to you.
So we have highlighted that there are a number of successful models in terms of contractual arrangement between farmer and sponsors. But based on that, we also highlighted that there are a number of implementation hiccups. We also took from those that there are a number of constraints which are there, which need to be further legalized or handled in our implementation process. That there are sometimes we need to formalize these contracts. There are sometimes the contracts are biased. We need to ensure the bargaining power to the farmers. We need to take the interest of smallholders into consideration. So there are a number of constraints which actually need to be handled. Of course, you're right that there are a number of failures also. So those need to be handled when we talk about further implementation schedule and the contractual arrangements between the farmers and sponsors in the coming days to come. Second question is on, is it possible to boost the export of agricultural commodities without adversely affecting the domestic market price? Yes, actually, we have been the traditional regular export partners in number of commodities. Like we are regular exporter in case of rice, we are regular exporter in terms of cotton, we are a regular exporter in terms of shrimp. We have problem basically in those commodities where we have huge price volatility, which is when huge price volatility is observed, particularly in case of onion. When we export, whenever every alternate year, we have some kind of price crisis in case of onion. And whenever the prices rises up to 70 rupees, 80 rupees, 100 rupees, the government immediately takes action in terms of banning the export or putting some kind of export quota on that, and then rising the minimum export price of onion. So this is actually very important to handle in those commodities where price volatility is very huge. So those commodities, their supply chains need to be made more efficient, and we need to have some kind of outlook modeling in those commodities where we can project in advance at what could be the possible international prices, what could be the possible situation in the domestic market, and then we don't hamper the interest of our farmers and domestic prices when we export that particular commodity. Jan sir has asked a question about MSME playing critical role in improving the farmer's lot. Yes, actually, MSME can play a very important role. We are talking about a different version of it, that farmer producer organizations where farmers can come together. They can play a very important role in terms of enhancing their bargaining power, in terms of effective aggregation, and then integrating entire supply chain and value chain. And there the role of MSME would be actually very important in improving the welfare of farmers.
Good, Dr. Raka, very good. And you have two compliments from Dr. Veena Gupta. She is complimenting you for your outstanding presentation, and she has also given suggestion that farm diversification can play important role in improving farmers' economy. And Dr. Veena has congratulated you for your excellent presentation. And I too join her and everyone for giving excellent presentation, and lots of good analysis you have done. I am so impressed to see the meta-analysis. I think you quickly complete the meta-analysis and try to see that it is published as early as possible, because this is giving a very new dimension, having the share of the farmers in consumer rupee, covering lots of commodities, maybe in different states. So you can see that how in different states, different situation, different environmental conditions, different infrastructural condition, the price spread is widening or narrowing down. So I think complete this study, wonderful study, and publish it as soon as possible. So friends, give her a big hand for outstanding presentation. I really enjoyed Raka, such a outstanding presentation from you. Keep it up. So we have now Mr. Arvind Das. Dr. Arvind Das, welcome to you in this session. I'm so happy to see you. Mr. Das is presently Director of NutriWiz Global Advisory Services Private Limited. We are listening from different sectors. He represents private sector. Dr. Das, I'm so happy that you are here. He has long experience, and outstanding track record of transformational leadership, excellent results through strategic skills in driving revenue and profitable growth. He has proven strength in directing all aspects of business processes, including startups. I think those who would like to go for startups, you will be happy to consult with Mr. Das. I know he can give you outstanding suggestions. He's also involved in mergers and acquisitions, very new dimensions, and sales management, establish multiple distribution channels, operational management, supply chain management, and quality management at national as well as international levels. He has also participated in industry body like PhD chambers, CII, and many like such private sector, organization where he represented and given his views. He remained an outstanding speaker and panel member in various forums on nutritional security, supply chain challenges for food industry, and opportunity for processed food industry in India. I think these three issues, nutritional security, supply chain management on food industry, and opportunity for processed food industry in India. These are the three key points which I think are the future for Indian agri-business profession. So we are very happy to have Dr. Das with us. And now I also compliment the organizers for inviting such a distinguished personality to deliver the talk. Mr. Das, over to you.
Thank you. Such an elaborated introduction, Dr. Joshi. And I'm very honored and privileged to be part of this August gathering as a learned panel members. I'm no economist. I come from a professional background with the experience at both sides. I've seen on the farm side and the industry side and the export sides and world market. Okay, I generally do a lot of these G2G meetings, part of those meetings, and understand what India can do for the world and world can do for the India. So we are a very, very small world. This is a very small world. So before I take you to the my presentation, I'm very, very glad that I'm to be part of such a panel where there are views, both side views. That makes it more richer for a discussion and triggers minds that so what should be the solution? I'll tell you, there is no good solution. There is no bad solutions. This all every decisions, any part of the life or business is time based. Okay, so before I get into the things that my deliberation around entire this thing on the entire laws, how we're going to look at it. I tell you that I'm very nostalgic to be here. I passed out from 1982 and my graduation, post-graduation 1984. I always wanted to be a scientist. I landed up in corporate sector. Okay. So, and I thank the organizers for giving me an opportunity to come here. I wish you all happy Lori. Today's a very good day. Happy Lori to the entire panel members, the participants, जो हमारे साथ जुड़े हुए हैं अभी YouTube के थ्रू और इस वेबिनार के थ्रू, उन सबको मेरे लोरी के लिए बहुत बहुत बधाई हैं. And thank you very much for joining. And I will be, I'm going to make it very clear that I'm not going to bring politics into it, nor any of this current situation. I'm going to keep my focus on that what this laws does and what this laws doesn't do. Okay, that's the whole thing. So before I get into, just 1 minute, let me get into this decoding new farm laws. I want to put a genesis into perspective. Let me put in the perspective, because many of us or the panel members might be knowing, but a lot of people who are joined through the YouTube or any other medium and listening to us, they should know where it started. I'm not going to go back to 1975, or 95. I'm going to go back to the 2001. There is a Sankaral Guru Committee report. What it talked about, remodel APMC. Okay, it talked about, I've highlighted some of the things. The farmer sell his produce in any mandis. That's the provision. But is he doing so? No, he doesn't have any liberty. He's not able to do so. He does not only do so, he has no liberty to sell his produce in his village. A marginal farmer with a 1 acre of land producing few kgs of vegetables, going to mandi, which is 15 kilometers or 100 kilometers away, selling is coming back and work on his field. Look at the, I'm going to give you these examples because in few years I was part of building a national level retail business, Indian retail business. So by luck or something, I landed up in food side, and in that also the fresh food was part of it. So I started visiting mandis in Maharashtra. I used to go put on my sleepers, dhoti kurta as a pajama kurta, go to mandis at 4 o'clock morning to understand how this entire trade happens, what the farmer does. I have seen farmers coming with tractor load of coriander leaves bundled, and he turns the entire thing in the farm market yard, goes back because he even doesn't cover the labor for bundling those coriander leaves. I've seen that those times. So I have gone through those pains and then say that, okay, is this the area that where I can bring in some changes and put together the people? So then I went through I collected this from 1900, when I came into 2006, 2007 into this, I said, let me read through these things. There's one more thing came out of the thing in this report is warehousing godowns. In godowns, every act is applicable. Labor Act, Mathadi Act, you cannot operate, you cannot store. So and those godowns are, I can tell you that we talk about America, we talk about Europe, we talk about everything. Have we gone and seen the godowns of ours where this grading is happening or the storage is happening and how this is getting processed and how a good produce, the farmer is growing a high quality produce. By the time it comes to the home, it is not that quality. This is what was my learning that time. So I said, as a retailer, how do I preserve the quality that farmer is producing? He's putting his entire effort, his entire sweat into give you a good tomatoes, a good coriander, a good brinjal, a good everything, or a good mango. What the consumer is getting is not that. But consumer paying for something else. It doesn't get. So we have to look at this. Then it came to Mountain Singh Ahluwalia Task Force report. What did they say? Overview, the Essential Commodity Act should be repealed. They said that the European countries are integrating the national markets, they're taking positions, the global positions, and they're going to go ahead. I'll tell you one thing, no matter what pandemic happens, what not happens, one system goes on. There are two. One is the food system goes on. Food system cannot stop. You believe me or not, in the entire pandemic thing, I was through the organization that I work and everything, we engaged with the government to keep the supply chain of farm produce to move, keep the food supply chain right. And what happened? Everything happened. Everyone talked about 8 lakh people went back from here to there and all that. But did you ever heard that time the crop was standing, any crop got damaged? Everything got harvested. We got a record harvest. How did the harvesting happen? Maximum employment happens in the farm sector. Where the people came from? Do you think that they don't employ farm laborers from other states? So let us look at the right prism, both sides of things. So that is the thing what came in. So they say transparency and perpetuate fact that produce are not graded. The farmer produces something, a farmer which puts a lot of effort, gives you a very good quality tomatoes and everything, but and another farmer does something else, but both are sold at same price. Nothing is gold, nothing is silver, nothing is copper, everything is iron. Similarly, like if you look at milk, a good quality milk, a clean milk with a very less somatic cells, no antibiotics, nothing, has got the same price as the milk the farmer produces, another farmer produces, which is cannot go to any other product, can go into butter, ghee, and cheese. That is commodity. So how do you differentiate the value for the good produce and the average produce with respect to quality and the marketability? So now look at RCJN Task Force Interministerial. This is 4th July 2001. What they said: enable private and cooperative sectors to establish and operate direct marketing of agriculture commodities for producing areas for farmers' fields. Why they're saying farmers' fields? Because these are perishable commodity. Number of touch points happens more, the value degradation happens, the quality deterioration happens. The farm produce will not get the price which is meant to get. We can talk about all this. Look at the kind of supply chain that has been built up in other countries. And what did we do? Permitting contract farming. Do you think contract farming is the contract farming came in Punjab first? When PepsiCo came in and set up the tomato plants, because under the MNCs coming in, they have to export commitment and everything, they did it. Then contract farming came in potato, still going on. I can tell you that my next session I'm going to talk iPhone Foods in Gujarat. They took up the things, learning from Punjab. Today, the Gujarat farmers produces much higher productivity, the variety, and their income has gone up, and they started exporting through these iPhone Foods. Same thing is that what kind of potato products came in? Previously, potato was to go to cooking. We never had a potato chips. We never had potato wafers or potato ready to eat, ready to cook products. So what had happened? So we got the best practices, we got the variety, we got the supply chain. Still then we are struggling in potato, we are not competitive in the world. So look at that, D-link premium support price MSP from procurement. This is RCGN report. Model APMC Act came on 9th September 2003. What did we talk about? APMC Act, what did we talk about? Prevent development of competitive marketing system. And they talk about no compulsion on the growers to sell their produce through existing markets administered by APMC. Transparency in pricing and same day. When I went to that time in 2000 into the things, the price negotiation was to happen catching the fingers under the towel. The buyer and seller will touch the finger, index finger, the first digit or second digit will decide the numbers. Can you believe? I've gone through that system and APMC. So I've seen those systems. Then came the MS Swaminathan first report, 29 December 2004, serving farmers and saving farmers. See the tagline, serving farmers, saving the farmers. Post-harvest management, he brought the concept post-harvest management, which I'm talking about, that I saw through this, I lived through this, and I saw that how the farmers are losing their money and they're putting the effort, they're not getting value for it. Immediate amendment of APMC Act, decentralize the system for better remuneration for growers. Okay, we will talk about better remuneration of growers. Now this potato farmer I talked about, they joined. Did they get better remuneration? There's two things. One, the productivity went up, they get more value out of their land. Per inch of ground, they got more produce. Per liter of water, they get more produce. That is the key. I will not going to give you subsidy or anything. I'll give you the things which you can create value out of your land parcel and the water that you put in and the sweat that you put in. And I give you a price that can protect you from the market variation, and that happened in the start. Many farmers they joined. Similar thing that what has happened. Why don't we talk about potato farmers in Punjab or in Madhya Pradesh or somewhere else? Okay. Then what happened? The states annuities, they went in. Then came the FAO report to NCF, 2003, towards an Indian common market. We talked about US and everything, but we were talking about one market. So what this laws we're going to talk about? I'm going to go to the laws that we're talking about is one market. So how can I come in and I said, okay, I want to do business in this, but I'll pay 18% tax in one mandi, in one state. In another state, if I go, I'll pay only 10%. Then how do the business happen? So where do I put my money in?
Okay, the same produce. Now you'll say that every farmers has got different productivity. That's what the competition comes in. The best practices comes in, and you start getting bridging the gap. You benchmark yourself, bridging the gap between why I am not getting that 12 metric tons per hectare or 10 metric tons per hectare one the other state is getting. So that's where it comes in. Then came Swaminathan third report on 29 December. What he talked about? Useful if the remaining agriculture products are also removed from the list of essential commodities. Lot of thought. I had a good fortune to in one of those conference when I was co-chairing was invited by the Honorable Vice President's office to co-chair, and I got a fortunate enough to meet Dr. Swaminathan. So we talked about it. What is the role beyond domestic market, and how do you going to look at your report and look at the world market? And he says this is the thing. He said remove all the essential commodity. Direct marketing could enable the farmers to sell their produce to processors. He said this is the bulk buyers and other thing. I'll give you the example. Please visit the site of Sahyadri Farms in Nasik. 10,000 plus farmers join hands. They're targeting 30,000 farmers by 2023. They are the largest exporter of grapes. In 1998, when I was in Nasik, the grape farming was going down. You cannot eat grapes because the MRL levels are so high. I understand nutrition, so I stopped eating. Today, Nasik exports grapes to Europe and US. My question here, do you have different standards of MRLs and produce quality, safety, food safety for India and outside? Do Indians are no human being? Do they don't need any food safety? So how did it transform? Sahyadri Farms went and got patented variety. They got the best practices. They revived the farmers, grape farming. Now today, they are the largest. Second largest, there are 17% of the total export, 9% is Mahindra. Mahindra came in, I know Mahindra's people in agri side, they're panel members in Maharashtra. They started with one container. Imagine what transformation happens. Today, Sahyadri Farm is the largest processor of tomatoes. Who's buying? The entire downstream, they have put money, and the farmers have put money. They started processing tomatoes. Who's buying? Del Monte, Hindustan Unilever. These are the companies that are buying. What they're buying? The farm to the straight in the processing and is going to the consumer product. Who benefited? These 10,000 plus farmers. There is one gentleman I met. They are into cotton. And they say these Adivasi farmers, what they're doing this cotton, they go back 4 months, they go back to their villages, whatever they want to do, and they come back because the cotton grows that time. Then they started intercropping of marigold. And they started selling it the other market in Bombay. Then they got some scientists and everything. They found out that's called lutein dipalimitate is the chemical which is pharmacological. They started supplying to those companies and started getting much value. So what did happen? The farmers are in cotton production, but the corporate got them into intercropping of marigold, and they have gained more money than what else they were looking for. Now they're going back 4 months, they're not going back anywhere. So that is the things what happens. The Swaminathan report, 13th August 2006. What did it say? State APMC Act relating to marketing, storage, and processing agriculture produce need to be reviewed in order to meet the requirement of modern agriculture, attracting private capital in the sector. Modern agriculture. I just want to mention one thing, that what I generally look at, any sector in India over last 74 years has gone through transformation. It needs capacity building. Capacity building with knowledge, infrastructure, and everything. For capacity building, you need investment. Investment it cannot come from only from the government, because the government has that much of money, because it's come from tax money. Who's going to invest? The money has to come in from the private side, whether it's a foreign direct investment for anything. You have to put the money. Where you put the money? Where you invest the money today? You go to look at fixed deposit. You look at every other instrument to get more money out of it. So money will attract where the opportunity is there.
I met an economist in one of those session. I was talking to a young economist, and I was speaking in Bulgaria and Europe. Young economist from Singapore. He says, if you look at 1,000 years, the flight path of money, war has happened because the money, the flight path. It will depend on who makes its conducive environment. Money will fly from everywhere to that particular location. So either you create an environment where the money comes from, or you don't get the money, so the sector doesn't get any benefit. Okay. Now, what the farmer wants different option for marketing his produce. So Dr. Swaminathan's report, when he gives this statement, he's not giving a statement sitting in the four walls. Farmer wants, and I can tell you that my experience working in the farm, I have visited before writing the white paper for the dairy sector, which got around. I was involved in that 15,000 crore things to some organizations. I visited villages at 2 cow farmers to 200 cow farmers in 5 villages in 3 states. I've seen their plight and their need. Then came the economic survey 2011-12, chapter 8. Perishable could be taken out of the ambit of APMC Act. I talked about APMC. When you're talking about everything, when the whole debate was happening, they were centered around grain and 2 grains, wheat and rice. That's not the end of agriculture. That's not the end of agriculture. And that's very small part of the agriculture produce that India produces. Now look at economic survey, agriculture and food management. Farm to fork value chain. They talked about value chain. Seamless. And the monopoly of government regulated wholesale market has prevented development and competitive marketing system in country. Okay. So anything that, see, it is not government is to for the governance. Government is not here to manage supply chain. Government here is not to put money into the business. Government is not here to put food into your mouth. Is done to create an environment that the whole market dynamics takes care of the whole demand and supply thing and the correct that need. And then lastly, the February 2015 economic survey 2014-15 volume chapter 8. APMC levy multiple fees for substantial magnitude were non-transparent and hence a source of political power. So I'll tell you that I have read through many times on APMC Act, line by line, come up, full stop, everything. The levy was done for the infrastructure development, farmers benefit. If you go into this APMC mandi that we're talking about, okay, we need 40,000 mandis. So what is that money went for? Where is the infrastructure? Do you have a grading system in the thing to create a value that, okay, this farmer produced a tomato is much better than this, so this is the value going to come? Did we have a color sorters and grader? Did we have a cold chain infrastructure to preserve that? At least the delay is happening in buying, so that can I protect the quality of the farmer? Did we create a transparent mechanism? I as part of the ENAM and everything, that's a different issue. So did we do this? So this money was for the infrastructure development and betterment of this thing. Where the money went? If that was the things, then in these 60, 50, 60, 40 years or 30 years or 20 years, why did the farmer didn't get the better price for the produce that the quality he produced and harvested from in his field? My question is that. And then last, before I go into the farmers thing, I'm going to bring in some context now. Do not forget one thing. Estimated, this is UN estimate, total estimate population in 2050 will be 1.64 billion people. You have to feed 1.64 billion mouth. And you're going to feed what the demand for food are changing every 5 years, 10 and 1 decade. You cannot say that I keep producing rice and wheat and you keep producing eat rice and wheat. The demand is going to change. So going to give my due respect to the speaker that we had, Dr. Devendra Sharma. I have worked for a very large US company. It's a $44 billion company and the protein space. I know what happened to the dairy industry. Your dairy demand is dropping, and it's like a geometrical progression kind of a thing. People are giving up dairy. That's the oath of dairy farmer. It is nothing else. I can tell you that. It's a demand that is driving. So the farmer has to change his production. So it is from the production driven to demand driven thing what I always talk about. Now I'm going to that total agricultural land available is 140 million hectares. Total irrigated land is available 64.7 million hectares. So to feed this, you need more food. Is your land, agriculture land is increasing, and how much it can increase? And irrigated land, how many hectares you can add up? Any database, any attempt is made, and why, and who will do it? So then, next question, my perspective I'm putting in, where is the groundwater? Agriculture needs groundwater. Water, your rivers are drying. Groundwater. I can tell you that to set up a food processing plant in Punjab, I struggled hard for 2.5 years to get a land. And it is not possible. Then we went into the food park. Why it was not possible? Every possible district of Punjab is declared a dark zone. What is a dark zone? Dark zone depends on the ground level water. So if there is the food processing, every industry needs water. If that is not available and you cannot produce it, then the production that you're doing, suppose your quinoa you're doing or anything, the surplus goes into market and goes into value addition. You will not get the industry there. So then now you'll say, now how you take it out? Oh, you cannot take it out because no one can buy. It has to go to the mandi, then it has to go this way, that way. All this thing will come up. Just imagine, I'm giving a reality. 2.5 years search for a land which is every land, because you have to be so many meters away from the canal. You cannot do this is ground level water has gone Rajpura or anything. District by district. So what is that going to left now? You will have IT sector. You will have there is I think the cycle company came in there. Those things will engineering company will come in. But you are producing food and you are producing horticulture produce more in excess of that what Punjab can consume. Now that has to be processed. Where are you going to process? You don't have a factory. Any produce that you carry for any of the kilometers, you become uncompetitive. It cost increases, consumption doesn't happen. So that is the thing. Today we are the second largest producer of horticulture produce. What is the export? Okay. So now thing is why you are not able to export, because we are not competitive enough in the world market. We are saying we're the second out. China and India produces onion. Can I tell you the quality of onion that you produce with the fungus? I start talking to Japanese. I got the Japanese consulate representative into Maharashtra. I organized a meeting. They said onion and banana are the two vegetable produce which doesn't have a quarantine process in Japan, because they can produce this because the agroclimate doesn't allow that. They said, and India is such a friendly country. Can you, Mr. Das, work with the farmers and Maharashtra government? There is 3 years gone. It cannot be done. Who is the largest exporter to Japan? I'll tell you that Japan imports 295,000 tons of onion every year, and 85% comes from China. You know what is the relation between China and Japan? Okay, there is banana. Banana is similar kind of a thing. I think they do close to a few lakh tons, and we are the largest producer of banana. We have hardly any exports. Why? Because to meet Japanese standards, you have to work from the soil. They're very particular MRL levels. They're very particular of pests. They're very particular of everything. To get mango exported there, we took 10 years. Okay, so they are ready to take, but we are not going to. Who's going to put the infrastructure?
Sir, we are expecting you have to just wind up.
Yeah, so I'm going to wind up now. So
sorry, huh?
So I'm just give me 2 minutes time. So what I'm saying is that look at just 2 minutes time. What had happened? India is the second largest producer of fishery and marine and aquaculture, the 4th largest exporter of marine. No one talks about it. Did they come to any mandi? So there is the exporter, and we got 40% market share in US. In 7 to 9 years time, we created that infrastructure. I chair those committees, and we are looking at how to go to India can be number 1. We are like a spices. Exporting spices. There are multinational companies have been there. 101 countries, 103 countries were exporting spices. We are 84.5% market share in jeera, with the largest producer of jeera. How did it happen? So, did it come to the mandi, or did they produce the right quality for all the markets that we are supplying? How did you make the Euro standards and US GAAP and everything happen? So, my thing is that any sector to improve, they need investment. Investment has to come from the market forces, and we will be producing more than what you require. And today, and last thing I'll tell you, that we are exporting rice, because we're producing 107 million tons, and we do around 102 million tons, 117 million tons, 102 million tons we consumption. Export is 10 million tons. Why we're exporting rice? We are exporting water. I have tracked China's export thing for 10 years now. China export everything that requires less water. China imports everything that requires more water. They import beef, highest water consumption, end to end. They import everything that requires more water. They're conserving their water for their future. And we are talking about not consuming water for our future. We're talking about produce excess. And this entire control thing, MSP and everything we're talking about, we are importing edible oil. Our production is pathetic. Why? We changed the scenario in lentil. Lentil prices 2004 was 200 rupees. Production went up. Now we are around 3-4 million tons, lesser than what the demands are. And we're doing 2 million tons of export. But look at edible oil. Why we're not changing the scenario? Why we're import driven? So because we don't get MSP on that. So we don't want to. We'll keep producing rice. We'll keep exporting water. We'll reduce our ground level water, but we're not going to produce edible oil and make our self-sufficiency Atmanirbhar. Thank you very much for giving me that opportunity to speak, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Arvind. Thank you so much. I'm sorry I have to. No,
that's okay.
I'm sorry, you were making such an excellent points. We would hear more from you had we had more time. So you have raised several very, very important issues. You have brought a new dimension of food safety issues, which is very, very critical for export purposes and also for making Atmanirbhar Bharat. You have also raised issue of natural resources, especially the water. Why we cannot have this agribusiness environment in Punjab, largely due to declining water table. So, and then export, why India is not able to have more export. So you have added very new issues in the existing debate to resolve. So thank you so much for your excellent presentation. I congratulate you, and I request everyone to give a big hand to you. There are a few questions for you, not directly, I think. One is from Jagannath Olekar. He is complimenting you, saying great presentation. And then he asks, where is the level playing field in private sector when 75 to 80% of the farm families are small and marginal, not even generate a livelihood, food security, and sufficient income to meet day-to-day expenditure? This is one you just note down, so you can raise.
Yes, sir. I'm noting down.
And then second one is Dr. J.P. Misra is asking, raising issue. I think maximum water consumed is by Pepsi Cola in Punjab. So if you have any information about Pepsi Cola using more water in Punjab, you can also give some inferences on it. Impressive groundwork and analysis. Bhaskar Krishna, I have applauded you. Impressive groundwork and analysis. You have given really very good case studies, excellent examples you were citing. And then Anil Dixit is appreciating your presentation. Misra ji again asked that Pepsi Cola 3.5 crore gallon water per day. So that you just respond to him. Neelam Sharma madam is mentioning excellent presentation with a new perspective. There is no question, but all compliments and kudos to you. Then Veena Gupta is mentioning again excellent points raised by you. It is true that we should look back also. She is from National Bureau of Plant Genetic Resources. And then there is in chat box, there is a question from Srinivas Bandia. So he mentioned that is it required to recognize the APMC and strengthen for quality pricing? Do we give additional incentives for quality price? If APMC are not recognized, does it lead to natural collapse of these? The competitors will lead to collapse in the APMCs. And there are incidents where the public sectors fall into the real pool strategies and gradually faded to close. The meaning is that if we are bringing private sector, APMCs will collapse. This is the question. And are there any hurdles in export of horticulture commodities? I think you have very well mentioned that one is the food safety issues. Second, we are not competitive in horticultural commodities. I think this is a good area for research. In fact, for our young researchers, why we are not competitive, where are the lacunas, especially in export commodities in different parts of the India. Then Varun Miglani is asking, how does MSP on wheat and paddy impact wheat and rice processing firms? A very interesting question that MSPs, raising MSPs or low MSPs, how it is impacting processing industry. And then you are saying that the Agri Amardeep, you are saying that farmers are only growing rice and wheat, but sir, they grow other cereals also. What is their availability in the market prices? Please elaborate the marketing availability of other commodities. And then Sarmaji is asking, is there any provision to determine level of benefits a company can have? And then there are compliments to you by Benish, and our Chandrakant Masoor is asking, is complimenting you that you have done wonderful job. And then Dr. Jain is asking, Punjab needs to understand the ground realities in terms of groundwater depletion and soil quality deterioration, and we need a different kinds of cropping pattern. Masoor is asking, paddy consumes 5,000 liters of water per kilo, while potato consumes 25% of paddy. How can potato consumes more than potato? Well, you might have given some example on this, so she is raising this issue. Then Gopal is asking, government can also try for diversification in Punjab, Haryana, UP, where to control the water table. Then there are only appreciations by Rohit Kumar that you have inspired many of the young professionals to be like you. So there are lots of applause for you. And
it's my
over
honor.
to you, sir. Over to you.
So I'll take a few minutes to I'll launch the questions and answer.
Yeah, quickly.
So my initial statement.
Yeah.
The pot drop more crop. Honorable Prime Minister's that program. I say pot drop more nutrition. Believe me, we don't have water, we don't have land. Pot drop more nutrition. That's what is required. Okay, let me go to level playing field. For your information, in southern Orissa, I come from Orissa, in Kandhamal district, which is the red track, the Naxalite area. I have visited them. A sanstha which works for around 60,000 farmers. I gave them backyard poultry. Okay, we gave them intercropping. Crop produced so much only to the demand, and they are now better off. So, and I talked about the marigold. It is all Adivasi farmers. The marginal, they don't have any farmland, is not even an acre of land. It's marginal farmers. So I give you that how the whole thing can transform. I'm talking about Sayadri farms. There's all these farmers who joined them. Also, there are a lot of marginal farmers. Many are marginal farmers with very little land holding. So aggregated, when you produce a huge quantity of tomatoes with a processable grade, and you can process and create value. That's the answer. Water, sir, I can tell you that basically water happens. The highest water goes into animal protein, that is beef, then poultry. Like that comes on, and least is used by horticulture. And more nutrition is horticulture. And that's where the India can play a greater role in world market. And the whole thing is that today we are either 25 to 2x time farm gate prices are costlier. Our milk prices is 2x than New Zealand. The same wholesale region, same farmer, what is happening? So I've done the value chain mapping of mangoes, citrus, grapes, pomegranate, corn, milk. I've done a value chain mapping, which value chain mapping means farm gate prices, transportation costs, factory operating cost, the power cost, labor cost, then supply chain cost, then marketing cost, everything. Also, we have moved in the government of India through whatever I chair, the marketing, collective marketing of India is produced in world market. collective, because you and me go individually, huge cost. Can collectively, all pomegranate growers can do, India does things. So doing marketing of it. Next thing I have to go that APMC, the value creation. In Enam, we say that we have got technology now through our IT brains. Now quality as a system. Just by putting the things in a grading sorting machine, it can grade also by color, size, also inside. Apple can be seen from inside at which grade it is. Believe me, technology has come in and we have that has been considered, been done. So I suggested this, can you, for demand supply gap, can you do the artificial intelligence and machine learning? I talked to the Google in California, my daughter works there. We understood the things, came back, we talked. Now 25 crore was given by the Agriculture Ministry to try out technology to come in demand supply. Matching, how can you predict a demand of a particular area? Suppose Bombay, Nasik is the supplier. So that no, you don't produce more, so the flexibility can do. So that kind of technology is coming in. I'm going to talk about rice and wheat other. Why do we produce oil? So it's excess. So we are importing oil, edible oil. Can't we produce mustard? Can't you produce soybean? Soybean we are importing. And believe me one thing, soybean oil we are importing and we are not increasing our hut rates. What happens? See the thing. Soybean meal goes into animal feed. Just 1 minute. Soybean meal goes into animal feed. In next 10 years time, soybean meal will not be enough for animal feed. We cannot import because we need non-GMO. World is moving out to GMO, and in next 5 years, there'll be no GMO soybean available in the world. So how are you going to feed your poultry? How are you going to feed other animals to get animal protein? That's milk, egg, and meat. So that is the thing. So you need to look at where the excess production is happening, where more water is going, how are you going to make a holistic approach? Then we talked about, I think, anything I've left it, or I answered everything, every question. That's what I gathered. So
responded all the points. There is one very, Deepa Bhagat, excited with your statement that per drop more nutrition. Excellent point. Per drop more nutrition. Really, this makes sense. So I also compliment you. And thank you very much.
Sir, last one I'm going to tell you all the Srota jitne jode hain. Look at innovations in vertical farming. For few square meters, and you go into 3 high of buildings, you can produce much higher quantity than what per square acre you are doing per acre you are doing the production today. Yes. Okay, more control. Look at the technology coming in, and you need to look at, because land will not be available to feed 1.64 billion people and give the nutrition. Thank you so much, sir.
Very good session. Vertical farming. I think we need to promote vertical farming. I have been to one of the farms which was, using vertical farming. I was so impressed to see that why we cannot replicate this technology. We always say that we have marginal farmer, small farmer, but I visited this marginal farmer's field, and he was using this vertical farming and directly connected with the retail chains, and growing the vegetables on a sequential basis, not the one-time sowing. It's a sequential sowing. It was perfectly a business model, and I think we have to do agriculture from a business perspective rather than as a way of life, which we have done in the past. So we need to shift our mindset also from way of life to agri-business profession. So thank you,
sir.
Doctor. I will say doctor to you, Arvind ji, excellent presentation. We gained a lot from your rich experience. You have given several successful stories, and I will request my researcher colleagues, they should consult you on these supply chains and export related issues, food safety related issues, and also the groundwater related issues to create a agri-business environment in particular areas. So thank you very much, and I compliment you for excellent presentation and look forward for more interactions with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Joseph.
And now we have...
sorry for the interruption, sir. There is a minor change in the program. So instead of Mr. Ratanman, we are having Mr. Vikas Chaudhary. So he will be speaking. And he is a progressive farmer. Yeah,
Chaudhary is with us. Thank you, Vikas ji, for joining us. Vikas Chaudhary ji, I have been informed that a very progressive farmer and helping other co-farmers to be more progressive and helping them in disseminating improved technologies for the farming communities. So Vikas ji, the floor is for you, especially on these three farm laws. Over to you.
गुड आफ्टरनून। और मैं आपको बताना चाहूँगा पहले भी हमने पिछले 15 सालों में क्या किया। मेरे यहाँ पिछले 15 सालों में CGIR के इंस्टीट्यूट्स ने मेरे यहाँ काम किया, सेमी डेयरी बायोवर्सिटी इंटरनेशनल और ICR जो हमारे लोकल ICR इंस्टीट्यूट है, उन्होंने मेरे खेतों में काम किया और हमने बहुत कुछ सीखा भी हम किस तरह से नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज को बचा सकते हैं, किस तरह से हम आगे बढ़ सकते हैं। और मुझे अभी 20 मिनट पहले ही बताया गया कि मुझे अभी ज्वाइन करना है, तो मैं बताना चाहूँगा भी ये जो 3 बिल आए हैं ये हमारे लिए एक फायदे का सौदा हो सकते हैं अगर हम इस पे अच्छे से काम करें। और इनिशियली स्टार्टिंग में ये हो सकता है अभी फार्मर्स को बहुत दिक्कत आए और उनको स्टोरेज की सुविधा नहीं है फार्मर्स के पास, क्योंकि हमारे पंजाब हरियाणा में भी जो ट्रेंड है वो ये ट्रेंड है कि हमें एकदम धान और गेहूं को काट के सीधा मंडी में लेके जाना है। बट अब उसे ऐसा करना है कि हमारे पास स्टोरेज सुविधा भी होनी चाहिए जिससे कि हम अपने माल को नीट एंड क्लीन करके आराम से बेच पाएं। और सबसे बड़ा रोल जो है इन 3 बिलों में मुझे लगता है फार्मर प्रोड्यूसर कंपनीज का भी हो सकता है। अगर फार्मर प्रोड्यूसर कंपनीज के साथ जुड़े और उसके साथ मिलके काम करें तो हम और भी इस चीज को प्रॉफिटेबल बना सकते हैं। क्योंकि अभी जो हमारे दिमाग में फिट है, अभी हमें सिर्फ धान और गेहूं लगाना है, और धान और गेहूं लगाना है तो हमारे दिमाग में ये भी फिट है कि हमारी प्रोक्योरमेंट भी फिक्स है, मतलब हमें ये प्राइस तो मिलेगा ही मिलेगा। जबकि हम नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज की बात करें, लगातार धान लगाने से हमारे 10-15 सालों में जो है वाटर लेवल है बहुत नीचे चला गया, जिससे कि बहुत सारी दिक्कतें आने वाली हैं। जो हमारी सोयल हेल्थ है वो बहुत पुअर हो चुकी है। और बट फार्मर को तो एक ही बात दिखती है, अभी हम किसी तरह से अपनी जो इनकम है फिक्स करें। अगर फार्मर और क्रॉप्स पे जाता है तो वो भी बहुत अच्छा होगा। और मैं अपने बुजुर्गों से सुनता हूँ भी 1970 से पहले यहाँ धान की जगह मक्का लगता था, दालें लगती थी, सरसों लगती थी गेहूं की जगह। और जब भी कोई घर में मेहमान आता था तो हम उसको गेहूं की रोटी मेहमान को खिलाते थे, जबकि हम खुद मक्की की खाते थे। बट अब उल्टा हो चुका है और हर कोई धान और गेहूं की तरफ भाग रहा है, जिससे कि हमारे नेचुरल रिसोर्सेज का भी नुकसान हुआ है। और इवन ये बिल इसलिए भी बहुत जरूरी है, और मैंने पिछले 5-6 सालों में ये भी देखा है मंडी में हमारी गेहूं जब भी कटती है गीली गेहूं ही कट जाती है, अभी पकी भी नहीं होती और मंडी में आगे तुल जाती है, जिससे कि प्रोक्योरमेंट में दिक्कत भी है। और जहां हमारी मीट प्रोक्योर हो रही है उससे अच्छे से प्रोक्योरमेंट न होने की वजह से नुकसान भी हो रहा है, क्योंकि हम ऐसी क्वालिटी हम दे ही नहीं पा रहे जिससे कि हम एक्सपोर्ट कर पाए या कुछ और अच्छा कर पाए। इवन बात करें हम जो राशन के डिपो पे भी अगर फार्मर्स जो और लोगों को जब गेहूं मिलती है तो वो अच्छी नहीं होती। क्यों नहीं होती? क्योंकि हमने गेहूं काट के ही ऐसी बेची कि जिससे कि वो अच्छी क्वालिटी की गई नहीं। तो इसलिए भी ये बिल बहुत जरूरी है कि जिससे कि फार्मर एक क्वालिटी प्रोडक्ट उगाए और केमिकल्स को कम डालें, जिससे कि हम अपने देश के नागरिकों को या एक्सपोर्ट करने में आसानी रहे। बात करेंगी अभी हरियाणा पंजाब में बहुत पैसा आया डाइवर्सिफिकेशन के लिए। डाइवर्सिफिकेशन क्यों नहीं हो पाई? वो इसलिए नहीं हो पाई क्योंकि हमारे पास ऐसे रिसोर्सेज नहीं थे। अगर हम बात करें धान की जगह मक्का लगाने की, तो अगर हमारे पास प्रोसेसिंग इंडस्ट्री होगी या हमारे गांव में ऐसी प्रोसेसिंग इंडस्ट्री होगी जिससे कि हम आगे बढ़ पाएंगे। और ये सब तभी हो सकता है जब FPO मजबूत होंगे। हालांकि सरकार ने बहुत अच्छा इनिशिएटिव लिया है, अभी 10,000 FPO बनाएंगे और उनको हर तरह का पैसा देने की बात भी कर रहे हैं। बट वो मजबूत तभी होगा जब हम उस FPO को अच्छे से फार्मर से जोड़ेंगे, फूड प्रोसेसिंग इंडस्ट्री को अच्छे से उठाएंगे, और तभी हम इन बिलों का फायदा ले पाएंगे। और बात करें हॉर्टिकल्चर क्रॉप्स की, हॉर्टिकल्चर क्रॉप्स में भी यही दिक्कत है भी जब रेट कम आता है सब्जियों का तो हम उसको प्रोसेस करने के लिए हमारे पास कोई इंडस्ट्री नहीं है, हम उसको किस तरह से कैसे प्रोसेस करें। तो इसमें भी अगर FPOs आगे आए तो बहुत अच्छा होगा। और बात करें इन बिलों की तो मुझे नहीं पता फार्मर्स क्यों दिल्ली बैठे हैं, आई डोंट नो। और मुझे लगता है फार्मर्स कम और पॉलिटिक्स ज्यादा है इसमें, क्योंकि मेरे हिसाब से ये बिल फार्मर के लिए प्रॉफिटेबल है।
थैंक यू वेरी मच विकास जी, आपने अपने यहाँ पे रखे, आपने बहुत अच्छी बातें बताई। पहला मुझे बड़ी खुशी हुई कि आपने CGIR स्पेशली सीमेंट के साथ काम किया। मैं जरूर आशा करता हूँ कि आपने जो कंजर्वेशन एग्रीकल्चर प्रैक्टिसेस पे ज़्यादा ध्यान दिया होगा, क्योंकि आपने वाटर और सॉइल की भी बात करी। कंजर्वेशन ऑफ वाटर और सॉइल जो कंजर्वेशन एग्रीकल्चर का मुख्य प्रारूप है, उसमें आपका रोल बहुत सराहनीय है, और उसकी वजह से जो आसपास के किसान हैं उन्होंने उसको अडॉप्ट किया। आपने ICR के इंस्टीट्यूट्स के साथ भी काम किया, हमें बहुत खुशी है इस बात की। और जो आपने नए 3 बिंदु पे प्रकाश डाला, वन इज दैट इफ यू हैव टू टेक एडवांटेज ऑफ these laws, and also farmer have to grow, they have to consolidate themselves, especially in production and marketing through farmer producer organizations. Yeah, plenty of examples of successful farmer producer organization. One can go for cooperatives, जो अरविंद जी ने भी एग्जाम्पल दिया था ग्रेप्स का, वी हैव महा ग्रेप्स है, महा अनार है। सो एक नए कोऑपरेटिव्स ऑफ कोऑपरेटिव बनाई गई हैं, जिसके वजह से किसान लोगों को फायदा हो रहा है। और सिर्फ किसानों को नहीं, वो पूरा एरिया डेवलप हो गया। एरिया रूरल डेवलपमेंट की स्ट्रैटेजी यही होनी चाहिए थी हमारे देश में, कि हमको ये कृषि से हमको रूरल डेवलपमेंट को ले जाना था। तो ये मैं सोचता हूँ ये बहुत अच्छी आपने बात बताई। तीसरी बात आपने जो बड़ी अच्छी बात बताई कि जो पहले वहाँ हरियाणा के कुछ हिस्सों में मक्का और पल्म मिलेट होती थी, और मुझे खुशी है बताते हुए कि मेरा जो पहला पब्लिकेशन था वो पंजाब हरियाणा में नॉन ट्रेडिशनल राइस पे था, क्योंकि राइस वहाँ पे पहले नहीं होती थी, और हमने यही एनालिसिस करी थी कि राइस इज इन नॉन ट्रेडिशनल एरिया, स्पेशली इन पंजाब हरियाणा एंड पार्ट्स ऑफ उत्तर प्रदेश। तो एक हमने वो, मेरा पहला पेपर है, मुझे वो याद रहता है हमेशा कि हाउ इट वाज इंट्रोड्यूस्ड in the region and how it has made a difference, and how it is now performing I think I will revisit that paper again, that how changes have been made with respect to prosperity vis-a-vis the natural resources and all those dimensions. I think that is important. So thank you Vikas ji. आपके लिए कुछ सवाल भी हैं, आपको सब बहुत लोगों ने बहुत पसंद किया है आपकी बातों को। और बीना गुप्ता जी कह रही हैं, आई एग्री विद मिस्टर विकास, वी हैड आल्सो सर्वेड मेनी विलेजेस इन उदयपुर एंड चंबा where crop diversification had reduced during last 20 to 30 years. So ये क्रॉप डाइवर्सिफिकेशन को हमें लाना भी है, और उन फसलों की तरफ लाना है जो ज्यादा किसान को उपज दे सकते हैं। तो ये बाकी क्वेश्चन कुछ नहीं है शायद। गुंजन कोई सवाल है?
नहीं
जोशी सर, मैं एक सवाल पूछना चाहती हूँ विकास जी।
मैम, आई थिंक वी हैव लॉस्ट कनेक्शन विद हिम, सो ही इज नो मोर देयर इन द पैनलिस्ट।
सवाल पूछ लीजिए, हम लिख लेते हैं।
चलिए, ओके, बेटर तो यही रहता कि मैं उन्हीं से डायरेक्टली पूछ लेती।
अच्छा।
एनीवे, वो है नहीं अभी पैनल में। आई वाज जस्ट वंडरिंग, वो एफपीओस पे बहुत स्ट्रेस दे रहे थे, तो आई वाज वंडरिंग, कंपनीज एक्ट में तो अमेंडमेंट बहुत पहले हो गया था और एफपीओस काफी टाइम से प्रमोट किए जा रहे हैं। सो आई वाज थिंकिंग दैट अगर is it the case that these farm laws will be efficient and they will be advantageous to the farmers only if we have strong FPOs in the country? क्या ये एक detrimental factor रहेगा? मैं ये पूछना चाह रही थी उनसे।
तो चौधरी साहब, विकास जी सवाल ये है कि जो फार्मर प्रोड्यूसर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन क्या बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट रोल प्ले कर सकते हैं कि ये जो नए एक्ट आए हैं, नए कानून आए हैं, इनको सक्सेसफुल बनाने के लिए?
I think he's back, लेकिन वो पैनलिस्ट में अभी नहीं है। We will need to
I will ask to join him as.
Can I come in if you want my view?
हाँ अरविंद जी आप बताइए।
हाँ, मैं आपको बताता हूँ कि आज तक जो 10,000 हमको एफपीओ बनाने थे, करीब 7,400 एफपीओ बने हैं, एंड नाबार्ड की तरफ से करीब एफर्ट की तरफ से 4,500 करीब बनी है। मैक्सिमम नंबर एफपीओ बनी है महाराष्ट्र में, बहुत शुरू से चालू है। जब तक ये मार्जिनल फार्मर को एग्रीगेटेड फार्मिंग की तरफ नहीं ला जाए, तो क्या हो रहा है कि आपको कि मार्जिनल फार्मर को लोन मिलना मुश्किल है, इनपुट कॉस्ट ज्यादा होता है। अभी जो कलेक्टिव बार्गेनिंग है, इनपुट के ऊपर जो कलेक्टिव बार्गेनिंग होता है, आप ये एफपीओ के थ्रू करते हैं। जितने भी एफपीओ महाराष्ट्र में, एक एफपीओ मैंने 3 साल पहले मेरे संदर्भ में आए थे, चालू करवाए इन्होंने, आज 3 साल में 50 करोड़ की एक्सपोर्ट करते हैं हल्दी और हनी की, जो सोयाबीन में है उन लोग। सो ये जो आप जो बात सवाल कर रहे हैं, ये एफपीओ काफी, एग्रीगेट फार्मिंग काफी दिनों से चालू था, पर ये अभी एक्सलेरेशन हुई है। महाराष्ट्र में आज की जो फार्मर है, क्यों बेनिफिट लिया है कि इन्होंने काफी ज्यादा सब चीज में उन्होंने मक्का की कर रहे हैं, दे कनेक्टेड विद मक्का फार्मर्स, आर कनेक्टेड विद द एनुअल फीड कंपनीज। अब वो कौन से ग्रेड की चाहिए, कौन से वेराइटी चाहिए, और एक ही जगह में उन्होंने मक्का उनको देते हैं। अब मक्का के देख लीजिए, अभी एक्सपोर्ट हल्दी, वी आर द लार्जेस्ट एक्सपोर्टर, डू यू नो दैट? ये फंक्शनल फूड है। महाराष्ट्र वालों ने सडनली, हमने बात की है, उन्होंने चालू किया 3 साल में 50 करोड़ रुपए की एक्सपोर्ट है एक एफपीओ की। तो उनके फार्मर, जो मार्जिनल फार्मर जो हल्दी करता है, वो उसके लिए कितनी फायदेमंद है, देखिए। थैंक यू वेरी मच। अच्छा, दूसरी चीज मैं बता दूं, जो इनकी जो बात थी, हमने एक सर्वे किए थे, पंजाब, हरियाणा, राजस्थान, गुजरात, महाराष्ट्र, यहाँ पे जो salinity of soil is increased, there is not fit for now cultivation. So we are tried for aquaculture, that is successful. But if that is the situation, aquaculture करेंगे तो export की possibility नहीं है, क्योंकि supply chain cost बढ़ जाती है। So your land moving from horticulture to the brackish water kind of a land is a very challenging situation for agriculture in India now. Thank you.
थैंक यू वेरी मच। जो ये विकास जी आ गए हैं। विकास जी, आर यू देयर? आपको अनम्यूट है, आप अनम्यूट कर लीजिए अपने को। हाँ, विकास जी आ गए। विकास जी, ये सवाल मैडम उदिता ने पूछा था कि आप समझते हैं कि एफपीओ बहुत स्ट्रांग रोल प्ले करेंगे ये जो 3 कानून आए उनको और सशक्त बनाने में?
हाँ, मैं बताना चाहूंगा भी ये एफपीओ बहुत बड़ा रोल प्ले करेंगे, बट इसको भी टाइम लगेगा सेटिंग होने में। मैं जस्ट एंड अपना एग्जांपल दूं, हमने 2017 में एक एफपीओ बनाया और हमने भी गवर्नमेंट से प्रोजेक्ट लिया 1.5 साल पहले, पर उसका लोन 1.5 साल बाद अब हुआ है दिसंबर में, सिर्फ 50 लाख का लोन। किसी भी बैंक ने हमारा लोन करने के लिए हाँ नहीं की, बट ड्यू टू प्रेशर ऑफ नाबार्ड और हॉर्टिकल्चर डिपार्टमेंट हमारा दिसंबर 28 को लोन हुआ। और जबकि हमारा जो अथोराइज कैपिटल 1.5 करोड़ से भी ज्यादा है और पेड अप भी 1.5 करोड़ से ज्यादा है, बट इट्स वेरी टफ कि कोई बैंक एफपीओ को लोन दे, क्योंकि बिना किसी कोलेटरल के कोई भी एफपीओ को लोन देना ही नहीं चाहता। और दूसरा बात करें एफपीओ की, एफपीओ एक बहुत बड़ा रोल प्ले कर सकता है अगर हम क्लस्टर लेवल पे या विलेज लेवल पे हम काम करते हैं तो, क्योंकि वहाँ के जो फार्मर्स हैं, एफपीओ के जो मेंबर्स हैं, उस पर आम फार्मर विश्वास करता है। अभी हमें ये क्रॉप लगानी है, हम ये रेट लेंगे, आपने टोमेटो करना है हम 10 रुपए लेंगे, करेला लगाना है तो हम ये रेट लेंगे। अगर फार्मर को एक फिक्स प्रोक्योरमेंट की गारंटी एफपीओ देता है तो फार्मर डाइवर्सिफिकेशन की तरफ भी जाएगा और मंडी की तरफ मूव भी नहीं करेगा। अभी बात हो रही थी भी क्यों लोग सिंधु बॉर्डर पर बैठे हैं, इसलिए बैठे हैं क्योंकि फार्मर्स के लिए अब आज तक जो मंडी में आड़ती है वो एक भगवान है उसके लिए, क्योंकि उसको किसी भी टाइम पैसा मिल जाता है। और वही फीडबैक उस आड़ती ने कहा है भी जब तक तुम दिल्ली नहीं जाओगे तब तक तुम्हारी फसलें नहीं बिकेंगी। तो ये एक बड़ा गलत फीडबैक जो है आड़ती एसोसिएशन की तरफ से गया है, जिससे कि फार्मर्स वहां दिल्ली में बैठे हैं। और मुझे लगता है कि अगर यूथ खेती में फिर से आता है, क्योंकि यूथ भी खेती में नहीं आ रहा, और हम अपने एफपीओ की बात करें तो मैंने अपने एफपीओ में, मैंने नहीं मेरी टीम ने भी एफपीओ में ऐसे यंग फार्मर्स को जोड़ा है जो खेती में कुछ करना भी चाहते हैं, और ऐसे फार्मर्स को कह के जोड़ा भी आप हमारे लिए क्या करोगे। और बहुत से किसान ऐसे भी हैं जो एफपीओ की शेयर मनी लेने से पहले एक ही सवाल पूछते हैं, हमें क्या दोगे, क्योंकि उनको ऐसा कुछ उनके माइंड में फिट है भी ये एफपीओ बनाए कुछ ना कुछ सामान मिलेगा, क्योंकि अब तक यही सब्सिडी की बातें आज तक चलती आई। बट हमने उनको एक ही बात कही है भी हम कमाने के लिए आए हैं, आपने भी कमाना है और हमें भी कमाना है, तो आप बताओ आप हमारे लिए क्या करोगे। तो ऐसे बहुत से एफपीओ जो 2000 का। हाँ जी सर।
विकास जी बहुत थैंक यू, बहुत सही बात है आपने। आपको एक डॉक्टर पवन मिगलानी जी हैं, उनका सवाल है कि आप क्या बहुत ज्यादा आड़तियों पे डिपेंड करते हैं आपके एरिया के किसान? क्या दूसरा सवाल उसी से संबंधित है, क्या आपकी रीजन के किसान क्रेडिट के लिए बहुत डिपेंडेंट है।
बिल्कुल
एक तो है ओवरऑल आरएसओ पे डिपेंड करना, दूसरा स्पेसिफिकली क्रेडिट के लिए डिपेंड होना। दो सवाल ये हैं, फिर एक और सवाल है वो मैं बाद में बताता हूँ इसके बाद।
देखो जी, फार्मर्स मैक्सिमम फार्मर आरटीओ पे डिपेंड है, और मैं एज ए फार्मर ये भी कहना चाहूंगा कि इसमें फार्मर्स की भी गलती है, क्योंकि सरकार ने किसानों को किसान क्रेडिट कार्ड बना के दिए, बट आप सर्वे करा लीजिए किसान ने कब कब किसान क्रेडिट कार्ड बनवाया, जब उसके घर शादी थी, या उसने कोई घर बनाना था, या उसने कार लेनी थी। उसने खेती में उस क्रेडिट कार्ड को कभी यूज ही नहीं किया, उसने अपनी खेती को अपग्रेड करने के लिए उसका किसान क्रेडिट कार्ड को कभी यूज नहीं किया, और हमेशा ही आर्थिक के ऊपर डिपेंडेंट रहा। और जबकि किसान को एक बात ये भी पता है भी आड़ती इसके साथ वहां उस ठगी लगती है, हर बार लगती है ठगी उसके। सर दूसरा सवाल मेरे को समझ नहीं आया था, आपने क्या कहा?
दूसरा, क्रेडिट के लिए क्या आपके किसान क्रेडिट के लिए डिपेंडेंट करते हैं?
बिल्कुल फार्मर्स आड़तियों से उधार लेते हैं और फसल आने पे चुकाते हैं, और जो उनका किसान क्रेडिट कार्ड बना हुआ है वो भी आड़ती उसका एक बार भरवा के फिर निकलवा लेता है। सब किसानों का किसान क्रेडिट कार्ड बना हुआ है।
ओके ओके। तो एक सवाल और बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग आया अभी, उनमें नाम नहीं है किन्होंने पूछा है, लेकिन वो पूछ रहे हैं कि अगर मौका दिया जाए तो जो एपीएमसी मंडीज हैं इनमें क्या सुधार हो सकता है?
इनमें मुझे नहीं लगता अभी कोई सुधार हो सकता है, क्योंकि सभी एक जैसे हुए खड़े हैं। तो आड़ती को भी आदत है, अभी किसान गिल्ली गेहूं लाएगा, मैं 1 किलो ऊपर तोल के भेज दूंगा इसको, आगे जो होगा होता रहेगा। अभी तो मुझे ये लगता है अभी फार्मर्स के पास स्टोरेज सुविधा होनी चाहिए, और फार्मर्स को ये होना चाहिए भी मुझे अपने माल को 1-2 महीने रखना है, क्योंकि 1-2 महीने बाद हर बार रेट आता ही आता है। और जो फार्मर्स को इन दिनों से जो समस्या होने वाली है, एक तो स्टोरेज सुविधा नहीं है फार्मर्स के पास, एक दो महीने जो उसको पैसा घर में अपना उसकी फसल घर में रहेगी तो वो घर कैसे चलाएगा। और मुझे लगता है अभी आने वाले अगर ये बिल लागू होते हैं तो पहले 6 महीने बड़े टफ हैं फार्मर्स के लिए, उसके बाद धीरे धीरे सब बढ़िया हो जाएगा।
एक सवाल और है, वरुण जी पूछ रहे हैं कि जो क्रॉप डाइवर्सिफिकेशन की बात करी आपने, कि किस तरह से क्रॉप डाइवर्सिफिकेशन के क्या चैलेंजेज हैं आपकी एरिया में? धान और गेहूं के अलावा जो है कुछ नई फसलें अगर कोई लगाना चाहते हैं तो उसके लिए क्या चैलेंजेज हैं?
देखो, धान की जगह हम मक्का लगाते हैं तो मुख्य चैलेंज एक ही है भी हम जब मक्का को हम निकालते हैं तो मॉइस्चर बहुत होता है, उसको ड्राई कहाँ करें। सबसे बड़ा चैलेंज तो यही है कि उसके हमें 10-12 घंटे में ड्राई करना है, सबसे बड़ा चैलेंज तो यही है फार्मर्स के पास। अगर वो ड्राई कर लेता है फार्मर तो वो कभी भी बेच सकता है, कोई इशू नहीं। और अन्य फसलों के साथ भी ऐसा ही है, और हर फसल का एक बार तो डाउनफॉल आता ही आता है सीजन में। अगर उसकी प्रोसेसिंग यूनिट उसी क्लस्टर में लग जाए तो किसी तरह की कोई दिक्कत नहीं आएगी मेरे हिसाब से।
मैं बोल रहा हूँ, मैं एक मीटिंग में बैठा हूँ। हाँ, थोड़ी देर में कर लेंगे, मैं एक मीटिंग में हूँ। थैंक यू यस, तो थैंक यू विकास जी, थैंक यू वेरी मच। आपने बहुत अच्छी बातें बताई और बड़ी यूजफुल बातें बताई। थैंक यू सो मच। मैं सभी पार्टिसिपेंट्स की ओर से और अपनी ओर से आपको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद देता हूँ, और सबसे रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि आपको ताली बजाकर आपका अभिनंदन करें। थैंक यू सो मच फॉर एक्सीलेंट प्रेजेंटेशन।
थैंक यू सर।
We will move to next speaker. I think the youngest speaker of the day. We have Dr. Shivendra Kumar Srivastava. Dr. Srivastava, who is a very good friend of mine. He is presently working as a scientist, agricultural economics at the National Institute of Agriculture Economics and Policy Research. Prior to joining NIAP, he has also worked as scientist in agriculture economics at Directorate of Water Management in Bhubaneswar. He has also worked, I think, for 2 years as a consultant with the Niti Aayog and contributed significantly in helping Niti Aayog in producing their vision document and other documents. His area of interest is basically on sustainable agriculture production and supply demand food system. These are the two areas specifically he is working, and he has been awarded, given awards, several awards, the R.T. Doshi Foundation Award from Agriculture Economic Research Association. He has also received award, J.S. Prithvi Award from the Indian Society of Water Management, and recently he received Young Agriculture Economist Award from Agriculture Economic Research Association. And I'm so happy that only a few days ago, he has been also awarded Young Scientist Award by the National Academy of Agricultural Sciences. My congratulations to Dr. Srivastava, a very budding economist, coming up economist. We have lots of hope from Dr. Srivastava in coming years in policy formulation. So over to you, Dr. Srivastava, for your talk on agriculture reforms in India. Over to you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your encouraging introduction. Honorable Chairman of the session, organizers from NDRI, esteemed participants, my co-panelists, a very good afternoon to all of you, and I express my sincere thanks to the NDRI for giving me an opportunity to speak at this forum on a topic which is being debated very widely. And in the previous discussion, and we have found many arguments both in favor as well as against the new farm acts. We could see the views of Professor Sharma, and we should also discuss with Dr. Akash Saxena and Dr. Arbindo on the evidences which they have provided, and we could see the a good feedback from the ground by the Mr. Vikas ji. And in this league, I would also like to provide few evidences basically on different aspects of this status of food production and farmers' income, so that we can critically examine the why do we require the agriculture reforms in the country, and we can identify some of the critical issues for the effective implementation of new farm acts, and how it can be a beneficial and how we can realize the intended benefits. And if we just see this empirical evidences, and I see there are clear evidences that due to the technological interventions and policy reforms during 1960s, the growth in food production has remained always the higher than the growth in population, and therefore the per capita availability or the production of the food has increased 2.5 times since the 1960s. And today we have the sufficient production of the food except the pulses and edible oil to sustain the food security. In fact, for many food crops, we produce the surplus production. And if we see that some of the evidences are there, and the estimate shows that the stability in the agricultural output has improved significantly in the recent decade as compared to the earlier period. We have sufficient evidences to see a rising commercialization of Indian agriculture. And it can be reflected very clearly that from the increased consumption of quality seeds or the fertilizer, or the improved irrigation coverage or the electricity use, or from the declining labor use due to the rising farm mechanization and other developmental factors. The rising commercialization can also be seen from the output side. It can be very well reflected from the rising marketed surplus, or the improving share of the agricultural exports in the agricultural output, or from the rising diversification from the non-food grains or the non-crop sector in the nation. Presently, although we are earning a net foreign revenue of about 1.4 lakh crore per annum from the trade in agricultural products, but it is recommended that we need to dispose about 20 to 25% of the incremental food production in the overseas market to clear the domestic demand. And for that, we need to improve the competitiveness in the export segment or something. From the diversification, it is rising. We do have the evidences, but it is rising at a slower pace. And there exists a huge potential to be tapped through the diversification on that. But apart from that, although our production is increasing, commercialization is rising, but still the farmers' income in the country is far less as compared to the recommended level. And my preliminary estimation from the recent 2018-19 periodic labor force survey says that a worker in the rural area who is working in a non-agriculture sector earns about on an average 36% higher income as compared to the cultivator. And the incidence of poverty is significantly higher among the farm households as compared to the non-farm households. Apart from that, there exists a wide disparity in the farmers' income across the states. The 2018 PLFS survey says that the gross earnings of the workers engaged in agriculture in the states like Punjab and Haryana farmers earns up to 3 times more income as compared to the farmers in the states like Jharkhand or Odisha or the Chhattisgarh. And you will be finding it interesting to note that farmers in the states like Punjab, Telangana, and Haryana are even better off as compared to the non-farm counterparts. They are even earning better than the non-farmers. But situation is not same across the country, and definitely it necessitates and warrants us to improve the farmers' income across the country. And for that, we have the well-known regions that why the level of farmers' income is low. And some of the reasons are that we have the low level of productivity, probably due to the low technological adoption. We have higher production cost due to the resource inefficient crop production system. Low level of price realization is a major factor, which is primarily due to the inefficient marketing system in the country, and there is a slow pace of diversification due to the high market and price risk faced by the farmers and the low level of investment in the market infrastructure. And these are the few reasons that why the income level in the country is low. I just tried to explore further in the price fronts because this is concerning to the market. And using the unit level 2016-17 cost of cultivation survey, I could found that in the paddy crop, which is widely grown across the country, the price realized by the farmers in fact covers the cost A2 plus FL, but on an average it is about 15% higher than the cost A2 plus FL as compared to the recommended level of at least 50%. But in case of 60 to 70% of the farmers, the prevailing prices in the paddy do not cover the cost C2. And it is very important that what are the regions that we have the low price realization for the farmers, even in the major crops like paddy. One of the obvious reason is the low bargaining power of the farmers because of the smaller trade volumes available with them on account of their smaller land holdings. And to sell their, as rightly told by the earlier speakers also, that to sell their produce, the farmer has to travel about 20 to 25 kilometers to reach the mandi, and the smaller volumes make it an unviable proposition. And recently, and then the farmers are forced to sell their produce through the local traders, which have the sort of monopoly. And because they do not have any competition, because for an organized buyer, it is APMC Act does not allow those buyers to trade outside the mandi, and farmers are forced to sell through those traders. And the available latest situation assessment survey says that for the small and marginal farmers, who constitutes about 86% of the total land holding, they have to dispose up to 75% of their produce outside the mandi. Even for the large farmers, the produce which is sold outside is about 50%, and those produce is sold in a very uncompetitive market. I think that the recent farm bills have tackled this issue and is expected to tackle this issue, that to cover how to cover this outside mandi trade volume. Another reason for the low farmers' income is the slow rate of diversification. We all know that presently the production system is dominated by the crops, and within the crops by the cereals. We know that non-food grains is almost twice productive as compared to the staple crop. The farmers are not able to diversify, which is primarily because of the regions like the poor market availability, high capital requirement, inadequate storage and processing infrastructure, and above all, the high price risk. I just found in my some of my calculation that the wholesale prices of fruits and vegetables are up to 7 times more unstable as compared to the cereals, and which discourages farmers to go for the high value cultivation. And this is one of the reasons that their income also remains low. And once their income remains low, that earning does not generate the enough savings so that which can be invested in the productive assets in the farm, and the farmer remains in the vicious circle of low income and low investment. And one of my estimates using the NSS data on All India Debt and Investment Survey and the National Account Statistics shows that on per hectare basis, a small farmer invests up to 5 times less as compared to the large farmer. And the share of small and marginal farmers in the total investment by the household is just 9%. So that we can imagine that in a situation where already we have the low level of investment, the investment is largely made by the large farmers who constitute the smaller share in the total households. And therefore, large number of buyers, investment is low, and that is why they remains trapped in the vicious circle of the low investment and a low income. Therefore, what I feel that the present policies in fact do aim to break this vicious circle of the low investment and low income by improving the farmers income. And this requires a fostering or the creating an ecosystem to foster the private investment, which is in fact only 2% of the total investment in agriculture. The issues like better price realization and the crop diversification have been identified as a major sources of the income improvement by the Niti Aayog for achieving the target of doubling farmers' income. And these issues require a creation of the business environment through the developmental initiatives, through the technological disseminations, and above all, by the favorable policies and the reforms. So I feel that in this broader framework of improving the farmers' income, the recent farm bills is aiming to create an ecosystem for the efficient, transparent, competitive, and barrier-free interstate and the intra-state trade outside the APMCs, and tackle some of the emerging issues which the farmers are facing in realizing the better price income, having access to improved market, and accelerating the overall agricultural growth in the country. The first act, which is known as the FPTC Act, aims to provide improve the bargaining power, which we have just discussed, of the farmers by giving them a choice to produce sale and by creating a competition among the traders outside the mandi. And it is expected to improve the market access and the price realization by particularly by the small and marginal farmers, because they are the one who has to sell outside the mandi in a larger volume as compared to the large farmers. The second act provides a legal framework for the policy agreement between the farmers and the sponsors, and it is expected to reduce the price risk, market risk, accelerate the diversification, and above all, strengthen the farmers' linkages with the processors and the exporters. And we know that agriculture-led development policies are in place, and we have to see that how we can add more value to the produce, which is low at present. And so these ads will provide an ecosystem in that direction. And finally, the Essential Commodity Amendment Act, I feel that it is enacted to have a better predictability in the government action to invoke the ECA based on the price stickers. And this will obviously increase the private investment in the creation of infrastructure such as the warehouses, cold storage, and logistics. So in this way, I think that these bills are having an immense potential to provide an ecosystem for conducive development of the business environment in the country. However, at the same time, we all know that there are some critical issues for implementation of any act, and there are few issues which I feel that are important to be tackled and which plays a critical role. And the first of all is that the role of aggregators. which is very important, because for the company, I feel that I do not know whether it will be possible for the companies or the private traders to reach each and every farmers which are widely spread and having the tiny landholding size and a smaller volume of the produce. So it is a question whether those companies will be directly dealing with the farmers or those will be employing the middleman. So therefore, it is very important that there has to be a role of aggregator is very important, and one of the way which is just now discussed is the farmers producers organization. We have to create and we have to strengthen the farmers producers organization so that the real benefits of these ads goes to the real beneficiaries and not to the middleman for which it is being created. Another critical role, what I feel, is that we need to create an efficient market intelligence and price information system outside the mandi, because it is very important uh, uh, to track the trades and the transactions. It is important to have an effective price discovery outside the mandi, and this requires an IT enabled services for tracking the transactions outside the mandi. I'm happy that there are the provisions. There is a provision of creating the market intelligence system outside the mandi in the act itself. And then finally, it is more important that there has to be a conducive ecosystem where both the APMCs and the private mandi can coexist. Not only coexist, they have to compete with each other. So we need to see that the government has to strengthen the APMCs, the rural hearts, and all the public procurement systems so that they can create a more competition for the private traders, and both should be able to coexist, and there has to be a level playing field for the both the public as well as private system. So this requires fostering investment for improving the infrastructure by both the central government as well as the state government. So these are the three critical issues which in my opinion are important for effective implementation of the new farm acts. And at last, I will just try to divert your attention towards a larger issue which is may not be directly associated with the farm bill, but it is very important for the sustainable development of the agriculture, is the groundwater energy and food nexus. And in a state of Punjab, I just did a paper where I found that on per hectare basis for the paddy, farmers incur about 5,000 rupees of electricity subsidy. And even if we change the electricity subsidy, if we remove the electricity subsidy, the profitability, obviously it will decrease by 2 to 12% in depending upon the amount of water used in different crops. And but despite that, paddy will still remain a profitable venture as compared to the alternatives like maize, because along with the other factors like more stable and the higher yield, the paddy farmers in the Punjab gets almost MSP. Almost all the farmers gets MSP. But in the maize, even in the Punjab, the prevailing price is only half of the which is MSP in the maize, and therefore, even if we remove the subsidy, then also paddy will be more profitable, and the farmers will not find it an economic rationality to change the cropping pattern. And that's why the farmers in the Punjab are having a trade-off between the economic gain and the environmental losses. And we know it very well that how the groundwater is depleting in the states like Punjab, Haryana, and the western zone, northwestern zone. So ultimately, my proposition or my final remarks are something like that. We need to have an Indian agricultural policy which has to be more responsive towards the drivers of the change. And the two most important drivers are that the demand is changing away from the cereals and the natural resources are deteriorating. And I hope that once again the farmers in the states like Punjab, Haryana, Western UP, as well as other states will create one more history, that they will give a message that they are ready to change in response to the changing demand situations and deteriorating natural resources. With these, I thank all of you for giving me an opportunity to express my words in this particular context. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sivender. Thank you so much for excellent presentation covering various dimensions from smallholder agriculture to constraints to agriculture diversification and the three farm laws, and finally your proposition for future of Indian agriculture. Thank you very much for your excellent presentation. We have few questions for you. I will read those questions. Uh, yes, one is by Sheikh Khadar Mastan Wali. It write that most of the farmers to sell their products on the day or the day-to-day basis, and when they are harvesting to clear the loans taken by the farmers, they do not have storage facilities. Selling in other states, now there is a problem for the small and marginal farmers. So what are your views, especially for small and marginal farmers? This is one from Syed. Then Rohit Vasist is asking, in India, 86% of farmers are small and marginal in nature, and they have very poor bargaining power, even with the local traders in mandis. Do you really think that they will be able to bargain with the big players? This is the question. Small farmers, they have poor bargaining power, but can they bargain with the large farmers? Dr. Jain has, given you compliments, applauded your presentation. Then he's asking, though food production has surpassed the growth of human population with the increased use of chemical fertilizers and water resources, is it not the time to reduce the use of above mentioned resources, particularly of chemical fertilizers and water, and go for intensive organic farming, which will fetch higher income for the farmers? Moreover, it will lead to conservation of depleting water resources and reduce use of chemical fertilizer in the soil. These should be disincentives for the excess use of water and fertilizer. And then agree Amardeep is asking, is applauding your presentation. Nice presentation, and to all the panelists. And then why government not making APMCs more better place so that farmers need not to go to the private sector? And then there is one more point from anonymous someone. He has not written his or her name. Want the APMC weaken if there is no tax levied on the private mandis. So the apprehension is that if there is no tax outside APMC, so APMC will be weakened. So these are the few questions, Dr. Sivender, and mostly people are applauding your outstanding presentation. So you respond one by one.
Thank you very much for posing these questions. In fact, it is clearly true that most of the farmers are small and marginal farmers, and any policies which are being framed are having the implications towards them, because these are the farmers who are the more vulnerable farmers. Of course, they have the poor bargaining power, and along with the poor bargaining power, they don't have any alternatives to sell produce, because most of the traders have already given on credits and to meet their end-to-end requirement. And that's why what I feel that these bills or these acts will provide just an opportunity, creates an environment where farmer will be having few options, either to depend on those local traders or to have a formal agreement and to have a more number of players in the market, so that they can have a more bargaining power for that. So clearly, I do expect that these bills have the potential to create an environment for developing such an ecosystem for that. So reality, we do not know until and unless these acts are being implemented. Ground reality will be known after only these implemented. There will be some pros and cons. There will be some challenges, and that's why there are some critical areas. And for that, I think that role of aggregator, as I mentioned, is very, very important. We have to have improve and strengthen the farmers institutions like the FPOs. I feel that we as a researcher also have some responsibility, like whether we take FPOs, whether we take say this water users association in case of water or any other group or the group institutions. We have to understand the group dynamics, why they are not being this successful, what are the challenges, so that we can inform the policy makers for improving those type of things. So obviously, I do agree with Rohit that farmers have the poor bargaining power, but we need to overcome the challenges. There are many success stories also. Uh, I agree with Jayan Saab that obviously that once we have the surplus production, now we have come out of the era where we had a scarce that deficient food production. Now we have the surplus food production, and that's why probably Dr. Arvindo is there. That he is there, or we need to go for the nutrition sensitive agriculture. We need to go for the high quality so that we can become more health conscious. We can develop, we can improve the export competencies in our things, and likewise that the areas like organic farming, natural farming, and those type of things has to be explored. Actually, I do not know whether strictly organic farming will be possible in each and every area of the country, but of course, that good agricultural practices has to be an integral part of the agriculture production system. Why APMC are not being promoted? This is a reality actually, that the most of the farmers, every survey shows that most of the farmers are forced to sell outside the mandi through the traders. APMCs are there may be some dimensional issues, like it may not be possible to install or to have these APMCs in every village or the block, because of we may not have the surplus production in every places, and that's why we require alternative ways, and probably, and that's why these laws will provide an option for private players to have private mandis outside the mandi, so the farmer ultimately requires an avenue to sell their produce, whether it's a public mandi or the private mandi. But as I said, it is very it will be important that both the public as well as private has to compete with each other. There has to be a level playing field, and if there is no levy, whether it is levy is being there for the private mandi or not, that is a policy decision. But at least some level playing field has to be there, so that both has to compete with each other. So that's all from my side, sir.
I don't see any question. There is one, Dr. Simran Kaur Arora. I am not able to follow the question. If Simran is there somewhere, she can ask. Simran, are you there? You can ask the question.
So participants cannot speak directly. They can only pose their question in the comment box.
So Gunjan, if you can understand, you can write, you can tell I can read the question, Srivastaji, Dr. Surinder. I can read the question if you can understand. Is there some clear registration kind of thing showing that a particular person is a small farmer or medium farmer or big farmer? So yeah, this is one. If not, then such clarity should be there so that the policies can be framed differently for different sections. So I think that the person is saying that can you register farmer based on their size of holding? And if we can do that, can we have a different kind of policies for different group of farmers? I don't know what
Yeah, I think that it is a sort of the information base or the database where we can clearly identify whether these farmers really need some interventions or the support or not. So in this direction, I can only say this: some pilots or some small initiatives are there, like PM Kisan and other things, where government is having that developing a database for those farmers, and identification of farmer is really a challenging task. And but now I think over the time we are having a better infrastructure and improved IT, so that we can clearly have a clear exclusion and minimize the exclusion and inclusion errors in the identification of beneficiaries.
So thank you very much, Dr. Sevender, for your excellent presentation.
Sir,
As we
good afternoon, sir. Professor Joshi, sir. Sir, Professor Joshi, sir, good afternoon.
good afternoon, friends.
This is MS Chauhan, sir.
We are so happy that we have Dr. Chauhan, Director of National Dairy Research Institute, is with us. Welcome, sir, for joining this particular session and showing your keen interest in this subject.
Sir, on behalf of the NDRI, on my own behalf, first of all, at the outset, I welcome you, sir, in this meeting. And I know that we are very busy person, but thanks to here you have joined to us, and then this is the really blessing to us. And the also the eminent speaker here in this meeting. And thank you, sir. And also because yesterday we were talking about you. You are now this everywhere the talk is going on, and where your name and Professor Gulati name is there. So we are really proud of you that you are one of the eminent scientists of the agricultural sciences. And I was just reading your biodata from the NASA Academy of Sciences website, and there I saw that born in Almora, Uttarakhand. I also born in Almora. I also born in Pauri Gadwal, sir. So me and you and Gunjan is also from Almora, sir. And thanks for it's very valuable time, and thanks a lot. I was just listening to you, sir. In the meanwhile, I had one meeting, but I'm fortunate to join this now meeting, and thank you for giving all the suggestions, advice to our speakers, to our economic, and particularly you can see the over 200 participants are still there. So thank you once again, sir, for this very valuable time. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Despite, I can understand the directors have several commitments, several meetings, despite of your very busy schedule, hectic schedule. You have taken time out to this particular session. Thank you so much. It shows your keen interest to strengthen the subject, particularly the economic subject, and especially the division of dairy economics, statistics, and management division. You will be happy to note that I was part of the division during my CSRI days. I used to teach a course, two courses, in fact, one a PhD program, Advanced Production Economics, and MS program of Production Economics. When during I used to visit NDRI to teach the course. I consulted your library extensively, and then the students were also coming. PhD students were also coming to CSSRI because I was freely offering them my computer. I was having a computer, so they were freely using my computer anytime. So that was a great time for me. I still cherish the memories of my NDRI and CSSRI days. And thank you very much for organizing such a wonderful workshop. Friends, we are now coming to the close of this session. We have excellent five presentations. We have Dr. Devendra Sharma, a very renowned policy analyst. He has given his own views on prices, our role in global markets. So we should have our own model. And he has also given that the young professionals should think out of box strategies. What should be our future strategy, and we should develop our own model. Then Dr. Raka Saxena gave a wonderful evidence-based analysis. Very good work you have done, Raka. And this was basically the price spread, and then the meta-analysis which she is planning to do. I think those were very interesting issues which we need. In fact, these kind of research is needed in agricultural marketing. Mr. Arvind Dasji, really impressed to have your presentation and to have with us in this morning from the private sector perspective, which is a different perspective, and that is basically on food safety, pesticide residue, natural resources, you have covered, and I am requesting all my young colleagues to be in touch with you to seek your guidance, and also that is how, no, this will be a complete research. Otherwise, we will have a part kind of research. Then our Vikas Chaudhary ji was there, our progressive farmer. Thank you so much, Vikas ji, for giving your opinion about these farm laws and how you are, connecting farmers, having your own farmer producer organization. Then last presentation from our young economist, Dr. Shivender. Excellent presentation, Dr. Shivender. You have given a very comprehensive picture about agriculture sector and problems of small and marginal holders, about these laws and the future directions. Friends, this session was very productive. I do not want to share my own views because the controversy has already started. So I will not indulge sharing my own views. But once I would like to say everyone that when you may have your own opinions, but when the responsibilities are being given to someone and they become very unbiased and impartially, they do the job. And the role of the committee is not to find good things and bad things in the acts. The role of the committee is to consult with the farmers. What are their views? What are their opinions? That recommendation is to be made. But I would like to share a few points for our researchers, because this area of agricultural marketing is very important area, and we do not have much research on that. Evidence-based research is not that. For last 2 decades, friends, we were talking about agricultural marketing reforms, but unfortunately, we have very little work, except the price spread and the market margins. We have not done much analysis in agricultural marketing. So this is still time for all of us to do good research on agriculture marketing, be it is crop sector or a livestock sector or poultry sector, any area. We need strong evidence on prices and then how different models are functioning to benefit both producers as well as consumers. If you look to the to to the marketing arrangements, we have done lots of studies, but we have not done what is the clear role of market, what kinds of infrastructures are needed in the market, how it can contribute in increasing income of the farming community. And then, one can do some studies. There are many states which deregulated fruits and vegetables from APMCs. There are 7 or 8 states which have already deregulated. So how the price discovery mechanism is playing important role. Now, using a good analysis, good evidence-based study should be done on those states. And then, everyone is talking about Bihar, because Bihar does not have any APMC, and but we are not doing any research on it. I wonder why we are not doing any research. Some time back, when I was with the Freebie, I requested my colleague Devesh and Avinash, we should do some study, and then they did a very systematic study, Bihar and like taking Uttar Pradesh, not, and then they did a matching districts of which were comparable with the Bihar, and then they did some difference method and tried to see that how the price discovery mechanism is playing important role when you do not have APMC. And what they found, very important points came up from the analysis, though they have not published it because they were still not convinced with the methodology. And but the information was supplied to Niti Aayog, to honorable member of the Niti Aayog, Professor Ramesh Chand. We have given that information to him. The inferences were that where it is the dominance of the public sector, especially in rice, the farmers were in a disadvantageous position. And where there is a private sector, maize, for example, the presence of private sector for that particular commodities, farmers were gainers. So it was there. I saw a study which has shown a historical trend. That's not the research. This is just showing the trends. You have to do a research. Our team has done a matching of two state comparing with another state, and then try to have a difference in difference. So one needs to do a very systematic analysis. So the inferences were that when you have option, unless you have option, and then if public sector is there, then the entry of the private sector is limited. The second analysis, what we have done, we have tried to prioritize states for agri-business environment. Why we are talking that private sector should enter in agricultural marketing? Because for investment, because you need a different kind of investment now. Traditionally or initially, public sector investment came in agriculture sector through irrigation, through electricity, to roads. But now we need a different kind of infrastructure: cold storage, cold chains, warehouses, packaging facilities. So different investment is needed. So for that, you need an environment which is conducive for the private sector to create an agri-business environment. To our surprise, I asked my staff to do the analysis again and again, because Punjab was coming at a very low level. And later we realized that the Punjab, the agri-business environment is very poor, which I support that Mr. Arvind ji also said that it was difficult to have a plant in Punjab. And we also come from our analysis, the agri-business environment is is not conducive for private sector to invest in Punjab. It's largely dominated by the public sector. So when it is largely dominated by the public sector, marketing is done by public sector, then no private sector is going to enter in that region. While there are huge opportunities there. So if they diversify, I think the plenty of opportunities are there. So one can do these kinds of studies. Third area which you can think of, you can document successful models. There are several successful models are there. In our recent op-ed, we have given only 3 successful models. One, this Avinav Farmers Club, then the poultry sector, and third, Mahagrapes, Maha-Orange. So these are the successful models. We have done 2 case studies. One is poultry sector, and second is Mahagrapes studies were done when the IFRI has done these 2 studies. But the kind of Avinav Farmers Club that I have seen, a small marginal farmers, group of farmers, they form the cooperative, and they are growing all hiding the high value commodities. They're just market driven agriculture they are doing, and they are doing precision agriculture, protected agriculture, vertical farming, hydroponics they are doing, so, and integrated farming system they are doing. So they have complete agri business model that you can see in a marginal farmer. So, and their incomes are so good. They are not sowing a crop one time sowing for one particular crop. They are staggering the sowing so that it is delivered in the market accordingly. So a business model is being designed. I think we need to see that our future extension approach should also be changed from existing production oriented to some sorts of agri-business oriented. That model is needed, and more research is, and we need to see that empirical evidence from these successful models. And I requested one of my colleagues some time back to review the global literature, that how in frontier technologies, they are performing, what are the constraints in the frontier technology, these precision agriculture, protected agriculture, and what is their prospects at the global level, especially marginal farmers, small farmers. And I am very happy to share with you that Southeast Asian countries, most of the Southeast Asian countries have already moved toward these frontier technologies, and their size of holdings are much lower than ours, but they are taking advantage of the global opportunities and taking advantage of the market driven agriculture. So documenting successful models and doing some empirical studies on those. Then fourth important area is explore opportunities for public-private partnership. We have rarely in public-private partnership in agriculture sector. We have lots of successful models of public-private partnership in non-agriculture sector. For example, road or aviation sector. Several sectors we have public-private partnership, but we do not have PPP model in agriculture sector. Why can't we have in surface irrigation, for example, public-private partnership? Like in electricity, we have power sector, we have PPP. Why don't we cannot have a PPP model in surface water or groundwater? So just think of, how can we have the public private partnership in agriculture sector. Similarly, the PPP mode in this the aerospace sector. So why can't we have in agriculture sector? Then export potential. Export is now, because we are now surplus in most of the commodities. All the commodities we have surplus. Now why we are worried? We have surplus in all the commodities, and there is a excess supply. And when there is a excess supply, prices are going to crash. And when prices are going to crash, the farmer may be loser. So if farmer is loser, we have to explore opportunities. Then we export these commodities outside India. And for that, there are conditions for successes. One, we should be competitive in our agriculture, as Mr. Arvind has already mentioned. We need to be competitive in our agriculture. Second, food safety issues are very, very critical, because there should not be residue in our pesticide residue, other residue, or lots of non-tariff barriers are there. We need to understand those non-tariff barriers. And we also need to see the requirement of the importing countries. Their taste and preferences are different than ours. So we need to, through our consulates in different embassies, we need to do some studies, what is their taste and preferences. So accordingly, we need to produce and then export. And fourth important issue in this one is the window where we are competitive, because it's a global market. And then we will have a certain window. Maybe we can get a 20 days window, 30 days window. Only during that period, if we export. So niche period and niche countries, where are the countries where we can export our commodities are very important. And then finally, the FPOs. FPOs, self-help groups, will play a very critical role in future, especially of small and marginal farmers. We need to consolidate farmers for production purposes, for processing, for marketing, also for branding. No, we have to develop the whole chain for these farmer producer organization. I organized a workshop in Pune of the farmer producer organization, and I was so surprised. These farmer producer organization, when you come together, they were hiring retired professors from agriculture universities to guide them, that what to sow, when to sow, what kind of seed is needed, where to market. And they were now their tax exemption is there, but when tax exemption was not there, they were hiring chartered accountant. So when they are coming together, it's showing the power of togetherness. So when you have the power of togetherness, you hire people. Our Dr. Kurian used to say that he is an employee of National Dairy Development Board. He is not, he is an employee. So similarly, these farmer producer organization, they are employing very senior people and taking their advice. So they need to come together. And I have also seen that these farmer producer organization, many were, processing, they were branding their own name. The Mahagrape is an example, brand name in many of the European and in Asian countries, there's a brand. So they were selling their product as a brand. In agriculture, you have to differentiate your product. You have to brand. Unless you differentiate, you don't brand, it's a perfect competition. So you will get lower prices. So you have to have a different product for you in the market. So that some of the companies have already started, but these value chains should be inclusive value chains. They should involve small and marginal farmers, so that they share the benefit of these emerging opportunities. I also feel that we need to farmer producer organization. I also feel that uh, only farmer producer organizations, I think from a buyer's perspective, if I am a big buyer, so I have to buy produce on a daily basis. So for that, I think we need a federation of farmer producers organization, or federation of commodities, so that as a buyer, I contact only one point, and that point can connect with other points. So we need to evolve new institutions. When we are reforming our agriculture, accordingly we have to evolve the new institutions, so that we can make these reforms successful. These are the few points, friends, I would like to share with all of you. First of all, I thank all the presenters for their excellent presentations, and they have given new insights on various dimensions, including these farm laws. The title was, in fact, the deciphering these farm laws, how to decipher these farm laws. And then we have learned a lot from them. New insights have come, and we'll learn lessons from them. Second, I would like to compliment National Dairy Research Institute, Dr. Chauhan, Dr. Chandel, and your team, Gunjan and Udita, for an entire team, whosoever were involved in organizing this workshop. It's a wonderful workshop. I have gone through your entire program. It's an excellent program you have organized. I compliment you and wish all of you a good luck for the successful of this particular program. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to interact with all of you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. So we are heading towards the end of this interesting session. On behalf of entire organizing committee, I express my heartfelt thanks to Honorable Chair Dr. P.K. Joshi and all the revered participants, revered speakers, who despite their very busy schedule took out time for us. And it was really a very lively and wonderful session. So we have noted down all your suggestions regarding future researchable areas, and we will give our best to work on those areas. I would also like to thank Honorable Director NDRI for sparing his valuable time, Dr. Chandel, Head DASM. I also thank all the participants for their active participation and for putting all interesting questions in the comment box. And I would like to request all the participants that you can provide your feedback in the link that we have given in the information brochure. I also invite all the panelists and the participants for another interesting session that we'll be having at 2:30 on new avenues in agriculture marketing. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you once again, sir.
Thank you, sir. And hopefully we will meet physically here at NDRA Canal. And if everything goes well, so then we will see you shortly here at NDRA, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you.
सब लोगों ने बहुत, गुंजन ने सबका बहुत अच्छे से धन्यवाद दिया. मैं यहाँ पे ऐड करना चाहूंगी, हमारे जो फार्मर स्पीकर थे, दिस बीइंग अ वेरी क्रूशियल सेशन, हम चाहते थे कि सबकी वॉइसेस आए इस प्लेटफॉर्म पे, तो हमने वही एक कोशिश करी थी. और हमारे जो फार्मर स्पीकर थे डॉक्टर रतन मान जी, उनका लास्ट मोमेंट पे फैमिली इमरजेंसी की वजह से ही हैड टू ड्रॉप आउट. एंड बहुत शॉर्ट नोटिस पे हमने विकास जी से कांटेक्ट किया. आई जस्ट वांट टू थैंक हिम. विकास जी, धन्यवाद कि आप आए और फार्मर्स का पर्सपेक्टिव, एक छोटी सी जो कोशिश है एनडीआरआई की, उसमें आपने कंट्रीब्यूट किया. थैंक यू सो मच. धन्यवाद हमारी तरफ से सबको. धन्यवाद. थैंक यू.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. थैंक यू.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. I also add my word of thanks to Dr. Joshi. Sir, we are honored to have you among us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone.